I sat in my corner office on the 32nd floor of the Morgan building, watching the Seattle skyline fade into dusk. The space felt different today, the leather chair a little firmer, the air a little thicker. My assistant Sarah had just buzzed to remind me of tomorrow's meeting. Mr. Wilson is coming in to pitch his startup at 9 a.m. sharp. Wilson. My father's name felt foreign now, like a word from a language I'd forgotten. 3 months had passed since that night, the night he'd thrown me out of our family home over $5,000. Now here I was, about to decide the fate of his dream project. I turned to my computer and pulled up his company profile. Wilson Tech Solutions, a bold name for what was essentially still just an idea on paper. My father had always dreamed big, but his follow-through was about as reliable as Seattle sunshine in December. The memory of that night crashed over me like a cold wave. You ungrateful brat. His voice had boomed through our modest 2-story house in the suburbs. After everything we've done for you. I stood my ground, hands steady despite my racing heart. Dad, I can't keep doing this. The money you borrowed last time, it was meant for my apartment deposit. Your mother and I gave you everything. He stepped closer, face red with rage. And now you won't help with a simple business investment. Simple. Nothing was ever simple with him. Every temporary loan became a gift. Every sure thing investment turned into a black hole that swallowed our family's savings. And somehow, over the years, I'd become the designated safety net. I worked for everything I have, I said quietly. The scholarship to business school, the internships, my position at Morgan Ventures. None of that came from you. Mom stood in the kitchen doorway, wringing her hands like she always did during these confrontations. Olivia, honey, please. Your father knows what he's doing this time. This time. The same words she'd used when he'd sunk $20,000 into a failed food truck venture. And before that, the doomed cryptocurrency trading scheme that cost us almost twice that amount. No, I surprised myself with how firm my voice sounded. I'm done being the family bank. Dad's eyes narrowed. Done. After everything we sacrificed for you. Sacrificed. I couldn't hold back a bitter laugh. You mean like when you used my college fund to invest in that bogus real estate scheme? Or when you remortgaged the house to chase another guaranteed opportunity? I was trying to build something for this family. No, Dad. You were gambling with our future. And every time it fell apart, I was the one who stepped in to fix it. He stepped closer, towering over me like he used to when I was small. If that's how you feel, then get out. You're no daughter of mine. The words hit like physical blows, but I didn't flinch. I'd been preparing for this moment, even if I hadn't known it. Fine. I walked upstairs to my old room, kept intact more out of habit than welcome, and grabbed the pre-packed bag I'd stashed there months ago. Some part of me had known this day would come. As I headed for the door, Mom called out, Olivia, please. He doesn't mean it. But Dad's voice cut through her plea. If you walk out that door, don't ever come back. I paused at the threshold, looked back one last time. Don't worry, Dad, I won't. The drive to my apartment that night was a blur. The same routes I'd driven countless times to drop off groceries, to help with bills, to be the responsible daughter they'd come to take for granted. Now they all looked different, like I was seeing them through new eyes. My phone buzzed constantly. Mom's texts grew increasingly desperate. He's just upset. Please come back. We need you. That last one, we need you, was what finally made me turn off my phone. Because it wasn't me they needed. It was my money, my stability, my willingness to clean up their messes. Now, 3 months later, I sat in my office, preparing to meet the father who'd disowned me. He had no idea that Morgan Ventures' youngest partner, the one he was desperately hoping would fund his latest scheme, was his own daughter. I should have recused myself from this meeting, should have passed it to another partner, but something in me needed to see this through, needed him to understand exactly what he'd thrown away. I picked up my phone and called Sarah. For tomorrow's meeting, make sure the conference room windows are unshaded. I want plenty of natural light. Of course. Mess. Wilson. Anything else? Yes. Have security on standby, just in case. I hung up and turned back to the window. The city lights were coming alive now, each one a tiny beacon in the growing darkness. Somewhere out there, My father was probably rehearsing his pitch, confident that tomorrow would finally be his big break. He had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I arrived early. The conference room looked exactly as I'd envisioned, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, the polished mahogany table gleaming. I'd chosen my outfit carefully, a charcoal gray suit that spoke of authority, heels that put me at eye level with most men. At precisely 8:55 a.m., Sarah buzzed. "Mr. Wilson and his team are here. Give me 2 minutes, then send them in." I stood at the window, back to the door, a power pose I'd learned early in my career. The door opened, and I heard multiple footsteps, at least 3 people. "Please, have a seat," I said without turning. "I'll be with you in a moment." I heard chairs scraping, papers shuffling, then his voice, still so familiar it made my chest tight. "Thank you for taking this meeting. We're excited to show you what Wilson Tech Solutions can bring to the table." I turned slowly, savoring the moment. "Are you, Dad?" The color drained from his face. Beside him, Mom's hand flew to her mouth. The third person, someone I didn't recognize, probably their latest business consultant, looked confused by their reaction. "Olivia," Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I smiled, took my seat at the head of the table. "Shall we begin?" Dad found his voice first. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" "Not at all." I opened the folder in front of me. "You came to pitch your startup to Morgan Ventures. I'm the partner assigned to hear that pitch." I gestured to their unopened briefcases. "Unless you prefer to leave." The consultant, a young man in an off-the-rack suit, cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should reschedule." "That won't be necessary," Dad cut in, his shock hardening into something else. "Pride, maybe, or desperation. We came to make a pitch. Let's make it." I leaned back, gesturing for them to proceed. "The floor is yours." What followed was painfully familiar. Dad launched into his presentation with the same misplaced confidence I'd seen countless times before. A revolutionary app that would disrupt the entire service industry. Projected earnings that defied basic math. Market analysis that seemed based more on hope than research. I let him finish. Let him lay out every grandiose claim and unrealistic projection. Mom kept glancing between us, her hands twisting in her lap. The consultant looked increasingly uncomfortable, probably sensing he'd stepped into something far more complicated than a regular pitch meeting. When Dad finally wound down, I stayed silent for a long moment. Then, "Your revenue projections for year 1, they seem optimistic." "We've done extensive market research. No, I cut in. "You haven't. Your user acquisition costs are grossly underestimated. Your marketing budget wouldn't cover 2 months of minimal advertising. And your technical infrastructure costs." I tapped the papers in front of me. "They're not even close to reality." "Now listen here, He started to rise, but Mom's hand on his arm stopped him. "I'm not finished." My voice was steel. "Your entire business model relies on outdated technology. Your competitor analysis ignores 3 major players who already dominate this space. And your funding request." I closed the folder. "It's about a quarter of what you'd actually need to have any chance of success." The consultant was frantically scribbling notes. Dad's face had gone from pale to red. "You think you know everything now, don't you? Sitting in your fancy office, looking down on everyone." "No, Dad. I just know business. Real business, not get-rich-quick schemes and pipe dreams." I stood up. "Morgan Ventures will have to pass on this opportunity." "Olivia, please." Mom stepped in. "We can revise the numbers. Make changes. This isn't about the numbers, Mom. It's about him." I pointed at Dad. "It's about years of watching him chase fantasies while I picked up the pieces. About being treated like a personal ATM until I finally said no. I am still your father." "Are you?" I met his glare. "Because I remember you saying I was no daughter of yours, right before you threw me out." The consultant was edging toward the door. Mom had tears in her eyes. "You want to know the real irony?" I continued. "If you had actually done the work, real market research, solid financial planning, genuine innovation, I would have funded you. Because that's what we do here. We invest in viable businesses, not desperate gambles." Dad stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. You think you're better than me. You think your fancy title and corner office make you special. No, Dad. What makes me special is that I earned everything I have. Every degree, every promotion, every dollar. I pressed the intercom. Sarah, please have security escort our guests out. You'll regret this. He snarled as 2 security guards appeared at the door. You're making a big mistake. I gathered my papers calmly. No, the mistake was thinking you'd ever change. That you'd ever see me as more than a convenient source of cash. I looked at Mom. I'm sorry it had to end this way. She stepped toward me, arms outstretched, but I shook my head. Please don't. After they left, I stayed in the conference room for a long time, staring out at the city. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. We still love you. Please don't shut us out. I typed back 4 words. Love doesn't take, it gives. Then I blocked their numbers. That evening, I worked later than usual. The city lights came alive one by one, each one a reminder of why I'd chosen this path, why I'd worked so hard to build something real, something solid. Sarah knocked softly. Miss Wilson, is there anything else you need? I turned from the window. No, Sarah, thank you, but tomorrow, clear my morning schedule. I think it's time I looked at some of those small business proposals we've been holding. The ones from local entrepreneurs. I nodded. Yes, the ones who've done the real work, who have solid plans and just need someone to believe in them. I smiled. Someone who knows the difference between dreams and delusions. After she left, I opened my laptop and started a new document. At the top, I typed, Investment Criteria, Small Business Division. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation or anger. It's building something better than what broke you. In the months that followed, I threw myself into work with renewed focus. The small business division I created became one of Morgan Ventures' most successful initiatives. We funded local startups that had solid foundations, real businesses built on hard work and careful planning. Every now and then, I'd hear about my parents through the grapevine. Dad tried pitching his idea to other investors, with no success. Mom took a part-time job at a local store, probably the first regular paycheck in our family that didn't come from me. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder if I'd been too harsh, if cutting them off completely was the right choice. But then I'd remember all the years of manipulation, of guilt trips, of having my own dreams delayed or derailed because they needed just one more loan. One morning, about 6 months after the pitch meeting, Sarah buzzed my office. Miss Wilson, there's a delivery for you. It was a small package, inside. My old house key and a letter from Mom. Dear Olivia. Your father won't admit it, but you were right. About everything. We took you for granted. Worse, we took advantage of your success instead of celebrating it. I've started counseling. Your father, well, he's still your father. But I want you to know I'm proud of you, not for your money or your position, but for having the strength to say no, to demand better. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not even asking for it. I just want you to know that at least one of your parents finally sees you. Love, Mom. I sat with the letter for a long time, emotions swirling. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I wrote back. Dear Mom. Thank you for your letter. I'm glad you're getting help. As for Dad, I hope someday he understands that real success isn't about quick wins or lucky breaks. It's about building something sustainable, something honest. I can't go back to how things were, but maybe, someday, we can build something new, something better. Take care. Olivia. I sealed the envelope and handed it to Sarah. Then I turned back to my work, to building something that would last. Because that's what real success looks like. Not a lucky break or a handout, but something built piece by piece, day by day, with integrity and purpose. My father had always chased shortcuts to success, but I'd learned the hard way that the only path worth taking is the one you pave yourself. And sometimes, the greatest victory isn't in proving someone wrong, it's in proving yourself right.
I never thought a piece of paper could change everything. But that's exactly what happened when I found the letter tucked inside my grandmother's old photo album. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, and I was helping her organize decades of memories in her attic when it slipped out, a faded envelope with my name written on it in her elegant handwriting. My name is Zoe, and until that moment, I thought I understood my place in our family. I was wrong. What's this, Grandma Evelyn? I held up the envelope, watching her face carefully. The way her expression shifted told me this wasn't just another forgotten birthday card. Oh dear, she said softly, setting down the stack of photos she'd been sorting. I suppose you were bound to find that eventually. The letter was dated 3 years ago, right around the time my brother Ethan got engaged. I unfolded it, the paper crinkling beneath my trembling fingers. Dearest Zoe, it began. There are things you need to know about your parents' choices, particularly regarding your future. While they've set aside a considerable sum for Ethan's wedding and his future endeavors, I've discovered they've made no such provisions for you. This isn't right, and it's not your fault. My stomach dropped. I looked up at my grandmother, who was watching me with a mixture of sadness and determination in her eyes. Keep reading, she encouraged quietly. The money that was meant for your college fund, money I specifically set aside for you when you were born, has been redirected. Your father claims it's temporary, but I know better. There's more to this story than they're telling, and I fear it goes beyond simple favoritism. The words blurred as tears welled up in my eyes. I thought about all the times my mother had brushed off conversations about my future, how she changed the subject whenever I brought up college applications. Meanwhile, Ethan's wedding last summer had been an extravagant affair that had our whole town talking for months. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Grandma Evelyn reached across the space between us and took my hand. Because you weren't ready then. But now, at 17, you're old enough to understand, and strong enough to do something about it. Do what exactly? I folded the letter carefully, trying to process what this meant. That's up to you, sweetheart. But there's something else you should know. She hesitated, glancing toward the attic window. Your father's explanation about where that money went. It doesn't add up. I've been doing some digging, and what I've found. The sound of car doors slamming interrupted her. Through the dusty window, I could see my parents pulling into the driveway. My mother's perfectly coiffed hair caught the sunlight as she stepped out, already calling my name. Zoe, we need to get home. The Hendersons are coming over for dinner, and I need you to help set up. I looked at my grandmother, panic rising in my chest. I'll show you a view. For now, nothing. She tucked the letter into my jacket pocket. Act normal. But come see me tomorrow after school. There's more you need to know, and we need to be careful about how we handle this. As I headed downstairs to meet my mother, my mind was racing. The perfect family image she worked so hard to maintain suddenly felt like a house of cards, ready to collapse at the slightest breeze. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure if I wanted to help keep it standing. There you are. My mother's voice carried that familiar note of controlled irritation. What were you doing up there all this time? I forced a smile, feeling the weight of the letter in my pocket. Just helping Grandma with some old photos. Well, hurry up. We have appearances to maintain. If she only knew how much those words suddenly meant to me. Because now I understood, maintaining appearances was all that mattered to her, even at the cost of her daughter's future. And that realization changed everything. The Hendersons' visit was exactly what you'd expect. My mother fussing over perfectly arranged appetizers while my father talked business with Mr. Henderson. I couldn't stop thinking about the letter burning a hole in my jacket pocket, hanging in the mudroom. And how's Ethan doing at his new job? Mrs. Henderson asked, making my mother beam with pride. Oh, he's already being considered for a promotion. The youngest account manager they've ever had. My mother's voice dripped with satisfaction. We always knew he was destined for great things. I stabbed at my salad, pushing around a cherry tomato. Mom, I wanted to talk to you about college applications. Did you hear Ethan's thinking of buying a house? She continued, completely ignoring me. In that lovely new development near the country club. My father finally looked up from his conversation. Speaking of houses, we should tell them about the renovation plans, Linda. My fork clattered against my plate. Renovation plans? What about my college fund? The room went silent. My mother's smile froze, while my father suddenly became very interested in his water glass. Zoe, my mother said through clenched teeth, we can discuss this later. No, I said, surprising myself with my steadiness. I think we should discuss it now. Where's my college fund? Mrs. Henderson shifted uncomfortably in her chair. My mother's face flushed red. "I think we should be going," Mr. Henderson said, standing up. "Linda, Greg, thank you for dinner." After they left, my mother rounded on me. "How dare you embarrass us like that? What's gotten into you?" "What's gotten into me?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I just found out you've spent my entire future on Ethan's wedding and now house renovations?" "That's not—" My father started, but I cut him off. "Not what, Dad?" "Not true." "Because Grandma Evelyn seems to think differently." My mother's eyes narrowed. "You've been talking to her about our family business?" Someone had to tell me the truth. I was shouting now, years of being overlooked pouring out. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? That I'd just quietly accept having no future while you throw money at Ethan?" "Your brother has earned everything he's gotten," my mother snapped. "He works hard. He makes connections. He understands the importance of maintaining our family's position." "Our position?" I gestured around our perfectly decorated dining room. "Is that all you care about? How things look?" "Enough." My father's voice boomed, making us both jump. "Zoe, go to your room. We'll discuss this when everyone's calmer." "There's nothing to discuss," I said, pushing back from the table. "You've made your choices pretty clear." As I headed for the stairs, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Mom says you're causing drama again. Grow up, sis." I typed back, "How's that promotion coming along? The one you told Mom about 3 months ago." His response was immediate. "Don't you dare." I smiled, feeling a strange sense of power. My perfect brother wasn't so perfect after all. I'd overheard him drunk dialing his ex last week, crying about how he was about to be fired. But, of course, our parents didn't know that. In my room, I pulled out the letter again, reading it for the 10th time. There was something else here, something bigger than just favoritism. Grandma Evelyn's words about my father's explanation not adding up nagged at me. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Grandma Evelyn. "Are you okay? Remember, tomorrow after school. There's more you need to know." I heard my parents arguing downstairs, their voices carrying through the heating vent. "We have to tell her something, Linda." "We tell her nothing. She's just being dramatic. Once the renovations are done and we host the charity gala, everything will be fine. And when she can't go to college, when she figures out what really happened to the money, she won't. No one will. We've worked too hard to maintain this life, Greg. I won't let her ruin everything." I recorded their conversation on my phone, my hands shaking. Whatever they were hiding, whatever they'd done with my future, I was going to find out. And when I did, maintaining appearances would be the least of their worries. I barely slept that night, and the next day crawled by until I could finally get to Grandma Evelyn's house. When I arrived, I found her in her study, surrounded by stacks of papers and old financial documents. "Lock the door," she said without looking up. I'd never seen her so serious. "What's going on, Grandma?" I dropped my backpack and sat across from her desk. She slid a folder toward me. "Your father came to me 5 years ago, asking to borrow against your college fund. He said it was temporary, just until some investments paid off." She paused, her hands trembling slightly. I should have known better. Inside the folder were bank statements, transfer records, and a handwritten agreement between my father and grandmother. But what caught my eye was a newspaper clipping dated 3 years ago. "Local investment firm under investigation for fraud." "Dad worked there," I whispered, pieces starting to click into place. "He did more than work there, Zoe. He was involved in the fraud. The investigation was quietly settled, but it cost him everything, including your future." My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Dad's looking for his old work files. Did you take anything from his office?" I ignored it, my heart pounding. "The renovation money isn't for renovations," Grandma Evelyn confirmed. "Your parents are underwater on the mortgage. They're trying to sell before the bank forecloses." The perfect family image shattered completely. And Ethan's wedding? His new house. Smoke and mirrors. Your brother's about to lose his job, but your mother's too proud to admit any of this. She reached for my hand. "There's something else. Your father." The study door rattled. "Mom? Are you in there?" My father's voice sent ice through my veins. Grandma Evelyn quickly swept the papers into a drawer. "Just a minute, Greg." She turned to me, speaking rapidly. There's a USB drive in my bedroom, top drawer of my jewelry box. Get it while I distract him. It has everything you need to know. I slipped out through the connecting door to her bedroom, just as she opened the study. My father's voice drifted through the wall. Is Zoe here? Her car's outside. She was, but she left something at school. She'll be back soon. I found the USB drive buried under vintage brooches and quickly pocketed it. Through the crack in the door, I could see my father pacing. Did you tell her anything? About what, Greg? About how you gambled away her future. Or about the other thing? Mother, please. Don't mother me. You made your choices. Now Zoe gets to make hers. I heard drawers opening in the study. Where are the documents? Safe, Grandma Evelyn said firmly. Where you can't destroy them like you did everything else. My phone buzzed again. This time from my mother. Come home immediately. We need to talk about your behavior. Another text followed. Your father knows you took something from his office. Return it now, and we'll forget this happened. But I hadn't taken anything yet. They were scared of what I might find, which meant there was definitely something to find. I heard my father's footsteps heading toward the bedroom. Heart racing, I slipped into the ensuite bathroom, then out through its second door into the hallway. As I crept down the stairs, I heard him calling my name. Zoe? I know you're here somewhere. My grandmother's voice rang out, sharp and clear. Leave her alone, Greg. Haven't you done enough damage? I made it to my car, hands shaking as I started the engine. In my rearview mirror, I saw my father emerge from the house, phone to his ear, probably calling my mother. The USB drive felt heavy in my pocket as I drove away. Whatever was on it had my father spooked enough to come looking for it. And now I had something they wanted, leverage. My phone kept buzzing with texts and calls, but I ignored them all. Instead, I pulled into the library parking lot and took out my laptop. It was time to find out what other secrets my family was hiding and why they were so desperate to keep me from discovering the truth. The files on the USB drive made my stomach turn. Bank statements, emails, and documents revealed a web of lies stretching back years. My father hadn't just been involved in the investment fraud, he'd orchestrated it. And the victims? Mostly elderly clients who'd trusted him with their life savings, including my grandmother. My hands shook as I scrolled through an email thread between my parents from 3 years ago. Evelyn knows too much. We need to handle this carefully. Dad, just keep her happy. The wedding will distract everyone. Mom. The library's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I connected more dots. My brother's lavish wedding, the house renovations, even his supposed new job, all elaborate distractions to keep people from looking too closely at our family's finances. My phone lit up with a text from Ethan. Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. Come home and we can fix this. I typed back, fix what? The fraud? Or just the appearance of it? His response came quickly. You don't understand what's at stake. But I did. I understood perfectly now. The library door opened, and I quickly closed my laptop. My mother walked in, scanning the room until she spotted me. Her heels clicked against the floor as she approached, drawing disapproving looks from other patrons. Get your things, she whispered. We're going home. I didn't move. Why? So you can help Dad hide more evidence. Her perfectly composed face cracked slightly. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Your father stole from his own mother-in-law? I kept my voice low but steady. Used my college fund to cover his tracks? She grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in. There are people watching us, Zoe. Important people. If this gets out. You mean if people find out we're not actually perfect? I pulled away from her grip. That's what really scares you, isn't it? Not what Dad did, but what the neighbors might think. You ungrateful little, she caught herself, forcing a smile as someone walked past. Your father made mistakes, yes. But everything he did for this family. No, I said, standing up. He did it for himself. And you helped him. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Grandma Evelyn. Don't go home. Come to me. It's time you knew everything. My mother saw the message. Your grandmother is manipulating you. She's bitter because Dad stole her retirement? I shouldered my backpack. Or because you helped him cover it up? If you leave now, she hissed, don't bother coming back. I looked at her, really looked at her. The expensive clothes, the perfect makeup, the desperate need to maintain appearances. It all seemed so hollow now. Okay, I said simply and walked away. Zoe, she called after me, loud enough to make people turn. Zoe, stop this right now. But I kept walking. In my car, I found more messages from Ethan. Mom's freaking out. Dad's talking about leaving town. Whatever Grandma told you, there's more to the story. I started the engine, then hesitated. One final message popped up, this one from my father. I can explain everything. Meet me at the country club. Just you and me. No police. Police? I hadn't even thought about that yet. But now that he mentioned it, I pulled out of the parking lot, my mind racing. The country club was in the opposite direction from Grandma Evelyn's house. Dad was probably there already, waiting to charm or threaten me into silence. Mom was probably calling everyone in her social circle, spinning some story about my rebellious phase. And Ethan? For the first time, I wondered how much he really knew. How long he'd been helping them maintain their perfect family facade. I turned toward Grandma Evelyn's house, but not before making a quick stop. Those files needed to be somewhere safe, somewhere my family couldn't reach them. Because now I understood, this wasn't just about my future anymore. It was about justice for everyone they'd hurt along the way. I arrived at Grandma Evelyn's house to find Ethan's car already in the driveway. My stomach dropped. He'd beaten me here. Through the living room window, I could see him gesturing animatedly while Grandma sat calmly in her armchair, arms crossed. Taking a deep breath, I walked in through the unlocked door. Just need to make this go away, Ethan was saying. We can figure something out that works for everyone. Like you figured something out for all those retirees Dad swindled? I asked, making him spin around. Zoe. His usual confident smile looked strained. You don't understand what's happening here. I understand perfectly. I pulled out my phone, showing him the recording from the USB drive. Want to hear Dad explain to his business partner how they could redistribute Grandma's retirement fund? Ethan's face went pale. Where did you get that? Does it matter? What matters is what's on it. I turned to Grandma Evelyn. Did you know Ethan was helping them cover it up? Of course I knew, she said quietly. Just like I knew your father was planning to leave the country tonight. That hit me like a punch to the gut. What? He's already gone, hasn't he? She asked Ethan, who wouldn't meet her eyes. That's why you're here, damage control. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Your father loves you. Remember that when you hear what people say about him. You knew, I said to Ethan, pieces clicking into place. You knew all along. The fake job, the wedding expenses, everything. It was all to help Dad hide the money. I was protecting our family, he snapped. Someone had to, and you were too busy feeling sorry for yourself to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture? Grandma Evelyn stood up, her voice sharp. The bigger picture is that your father stole from people who trusted him. People who lost everything while you had your fancy wedding and your mother planned her charity galas. My phone kept buzzing. Texts from Mom about family loyalty, about keeping secrets, about appearances. I turned it off. What do you want? Ethan asked me, his voice low. Money? I can get you money for college. Just delete those files and forget about all of this. I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. You still don't get it. This isn't about money anymore. Then what is it about? He threw up his hands. Revenge? You want to destroy our family because Mom and Dad played favorites. No, Grandma Evelyn answered for me. It's about justice. For everyone your father hurt. Including your sister. Ethan's phone rang, Mom's ringtone. He ignored it. If those files get out, we lose everything. The house, our reputation, everything Mom and Dad worked for. You mean stole for, I corrected. Fine, he shouted. Yes, Dad stole the money. Yes, I helped cover it up. Yes, Mom spent your college fund on my wedding to keep up appearances. Is that what you wanted to hear? The front door opened. Mom stood there, mascara smeared from crying. Thoy, blessy. Whatever you're thinking of doing. I already did it, I said quietly. I sent copies of everything to the police. And the newspapers. And Dad's old clients. The color drained from her face. You didn't. I did. Abota no rago. My voice was steady despite my shaking hands. Right after I found out Dad was planning to run. Ethan lunged for my phone, but Grandma Evelyn stepped between us. "It's done," she said firmly. "The truth is out. Now we all have to live with it." Mom sank into a chair, her perfect posture finally breaking. "How could you do this to us? How could you do this to me?" I countered. "To Grandma? To all those people who trusted Dad." The sound of police sirens in the distance made Ethan curse. Mom started crying in earnest. But all I felt was a strange sense of peace. "I'm staying here with Grandma," I announced. "You two can go home and wait for the police. Or run like Dad did. Your choice." As they left, Mom still crying, Ethan silent for once, Grandma Evelyn squeezed my hand. "Are you okay?" I watched through the window as their cars pulled away. "No," I admitted. "But I will be." The news broke faster than I expected. By morning, our family's face was plastered across every local news site. Prominent financial advisor flees country amid fraud allegations. Below the headlines were photos from Ethan's wedding, our perfect family smile now looking more like a grimace. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. Former family friends, reporters, even Dad's old clients wanting to know if I knew where he'd hidden their money. I didn't have any answers for them. "You should eat something," Grandma Evelyn said, setting a plate of toast beside me. I'd been staring at my laptop for hours, watching our family's carefully constructed image crumble in real time. "Ethan lost his job," I said, scrolling through another news article. "Mom's being questioned by the police. They froze all their accounts." "Good. Is it?" I looked up at her. "I wanted justice, but now people are saying horrible things about us online. Former friends are calling us criminals. Even people who weren't involved are suffering." The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Ethan on the porch, looking nothing like the golden child I grew up with. His designer clothes were wrinkled, his hair uncombed. "I'll handle this," Grandma Evelyn said, but I stopped her. "No, I need to." When I opened the door, Ethan didn't wait for an invitation. "They're selling the house," he blurted out. "Mom's being evicted. All my accounts are frozen. I can't even buy groceries." "Welcome to my world," I said, but the satisfaction I'd expected to feel didn't come. "Is that what you wanted?" His voice cracked. "To destroy everything? You destroyed it yourselves."
I just exposé till trut.
"Det trot." He laughed bitterly. "The truth is Dad's gone. Mom's having a breakdown. Our family name is ruined. And for what? So you could get revenge." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a news alert. My heart stopped when I saw the headline, "Breaking, Greg Caldwell found dead in Mexico hotel room." The world tilted sideways. Ethan grabbed my phone, his face draining of color as he read. "Apparent suicide," he whispered. He left a note. I stumbled backward, hitting the wall. This wasn't supposed to happen. I wanted justice, not this. "Are you happy now?" Ethan's voice was hollow. "You got what you wanted. Dad's dead, Mom's probably going to jail, and I'm sleeping in my car because they froze my accounts."
I din te.
The word stuck in my throat. "I never meant. But you did it anyway." He tossed my phone back to me. "Congratulations, Zoe. You're not the forgotten child anymore. You're the one who destroyed the Caldwell family." He left before I could respond, the door slamming behind him. I slid down the wall, my legs giving out. Grandma Evelyn appeared beside me, her face grave. "This isn't your fault, isn't it?" My voice sounded strange, distant. "I wanted them to pay for what they did to us. But now Dad's dead, Mom's facing charges, and Ethan's homeless. How is that justice?" "Your father made his choices long before you exposed them," she said firmly. "What happened after is on him, not you." But as I sat there, reading the news coverage of my father's death, I wasn't so sure. The revenge I'd wanted now felt hollow, tainted. I'd won, but at what cost? My phone lit up with another call, Mom's number. Her contact photo showed us at Ethan's wedding, both smiling, both pretending everything was perfect. I let it ring. What do I do now? I asked Grandma Evelyn, feeling more lost than ever. She didn't answer immediately, and when she did, her words weren't what I expected. Sometimes, destroying something broken is the only way to rebuild it properly. But as police sirens wailed in the distance, heading toward what used to be my home, I wondered if anything could ever be rebuilt from these ashes. And more importantly, if it should be. A week after Dad's death, I found myself standing in our old house, watching Mom pack up her designer clothes for court-ordered liquidation. The grand staircase where we'd taken so many perfect family photos now felt like a monument to lies. "They're letting me keep one suitcase," she said, not looking at me. "Everything else goes to the victims' fund." I picked up a framed photo from her dresser, Ethan's graduation. "Where is he?" "Living in his car, last I heard." She folded a silk blouse with trembling hands. "Though he won't answer my calls anymore either." "Mom, don't." She finally turned to face me. "Don't pretend you care now. You got what you wanted. We're ruined. Your father's dead. Justice served, right?" Before I could respond, the front door slammed. Ethan's voice echoed up the stairs. "Mom, you need to see this." He burst into the room, waving papers. His eyes narrowed when he saw me. "What's she doing here? What's wrong?" Mom asked. "Dad's suicide note?" "It wasn't suicide." He thrust the papers at us. "The police found evidence in his hotel room. He was murdered." The world tilted sideways. "What?" "Someone followed him to Mexico," Ethan continued. "Someone who lost everything in his investment scheme. They found emails threatening him, saying they'd make him pay." Mom snatched the papers, her face going pale. "But that means—" "It means Zoe's little revenge plot got Dad killed," Ethan spat. "How does that feel, sis?" "Still feel like justice." I grabbed the papers, scanning them quickly. "These threats, they're dated before I exposed anything. Before I even knew about the fraud." "Because Dad knew it was coming," Mom whispered. "He knew they were closing in. That's why he—" She trailed off, realization dawning in her eyes. "Why he what?" I demanded. "Why he transferred everything to my name," she said quietly. "The house, the accounts. He made me complicit to protect himself." Ethan's phone buzzed. His face went ashen as he read the message. "The police found more documents in Dad's room. Records of other schemes going back years. Names, dates. Mom, your name is all over them." "Because he set me up," she breathed. "He knew. He knew they were coming for him, so he made sure I'd take the fall." The perfect family facade cracked completely. Mom sank onto her bed, decades of denial crumbling. "Ifut. I thought if we just kept up appearances, everything would be fine. If we just looked perfect." "Well, I paid the price," I said. "Me and Grandma Evelyn and all those other people." "I'm sorry," she whispered, and for the first time in my life, I believed her. I was so worried about how we looked that I couldn't see what we'd become. Ethan slumped against the wall. "So what do we do now?" I pulled out my phone, showing them the email I'd received that morning. "I got into art school. Full scholarship for photography." "How?" Ethan asked. "My portfolio. Pictures of our perfect family falling apart." The judges called it a raw exploration of facade versus reality. Mom let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "Using our destruction to build your future. That's fitting." "Maybe that's all we can do now," I said. "Stop pretending. Start over. Build something real for once." Ethan straightened up. "You got the job offer. Nothing fancy, just bartending. But it's honest work. And I'm pleading guilty," Mom added quietly. "No more hiding." We stood there in the ruins of our perfect life, 3 survivors of a disaster of our own making. The revenge I'd wanted had turned into something else entirely, not justice exactly, but truth. Painful, necessary truth. "We're not going to be okay for a while," I said finally. "But maybe we can be real." Mom nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Real is better than perfect." Through the window, I could see the auction signs going up in our front yard. The end of one story, maybe, but also the beginning of another. 6 months later, I stood in a small gallery, surrounded by black and white photographs. My first exhibition, Facades, was drawing to a close. The images told our story. The perfect family photos juxtaposed with the aftermath of our collapse, empty rooms in our old house, Mom in her prison jumpsuit, Ethan sleeping in his car. "It's brutal," a voice said behind me. I turned to find Ethan, looking different in his bartender's uniform, but honest. "Thanks for letting me use the photos." He shrugged, hands in his pockets. "Least I could do after everything." We stood before the centerpiece, a split image. On one side, our family at his wedding. On the other, the 4 empty chairs at Mom's sentencing. 3 years, he said quietly. Could have been worse. She took responsibility. Finally, I adjusted the frame slightly. Have you visited? Once. She looks different. Smaller, without all the designer clothes and makeup. But more real somehow. Grandma Evelyn appeared beside us, leaning on her cane. Your mother called yesterday. She's teaching other inmates about financial literacy, trying to help them avoid the mistakes she made. Ironic, Ethan muttered. Or fitting, I countered. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find your purpose. A young woman approached us, notebook in hand. Miss Caldwell? I'm from the university paper. Would you say your work is about revenge? Getting back at your family. Before I could answer, another voice cut in. It's about truth. We all turned. Mom stood there in simple clothes, her hair unstyled, a guard discreetly waiting by the door. She'd been granted temporary release for the exhibition. Mom. Ethan stepped forward, then stopped, unsure. The court approved a few hours, she explained. I needed to see this. To see what we really were. She moved through the gallery, studying each photo. Stopping at one of Dad's empty office, she touched the frame gently. He never would have changed, would he? No, Grandma Evelyn said firmly. But you did. Mom turned to me, her eyes wet. Your father died running from the truth. I'm leaving Quifet. It's harder, but better. Why did you come? I asked. Because this, she gestured to the photos, isn't about revenge anymore. It's about rebuilding. And I wanted to be part of that, even if just for a moment. Ethan cleared his throat. I got promoted to head bartender. Small steps, but honest ones, Mom finished, smiling slightly. The gallery was closing. The guard approached, indicating it was time. Mom hugged Ethan awkwardly, then turned to me. I'm proud of you, she said. Not for destroying our facade, but for building something real from the ruins. After she left, I sold the final photograph, the empty chairs at her sentencing. The buyer, an art collector, asked what the piece meant. It's about absence, I said, but also presence. Sometimes what's missing shows you what matters most. Later that night, at Grandma Evelyn's house, my home now, I found a letter from Mom. Inside was a familiar photo, me at age 5, before the perfect family facade took over. On the back she'd written, keep showing the truth. It hurts, but it heals. I pinned it to my wall, next to my art school acceptance letter and the newspaper clipping about Dad's death. Not as trophies of revenge, but as reminders that sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways. Ethan texted me later. Mom looked good. Different, but good. Maybe we all needed to fall apart to put ourselves back together, right? I thought about responding, but instead just looked out my window at the night sky. The perfect family was gone, but something more authentic was taking its place. Not whole yet, maybe never would be, but real. And real, I learned, was better than perfect any day. The phone rang just as I was about to lock up the clinic for the night. It was one of those moments that you just know is going to change everything. I hesitated, staring at the caller ID that read Mom. My stomach churned. We hadn't spoken in months, and even then, it was more of a terse exchange than a conversation. Harper, came her crisp voice, cutting through the silence of the clinic. Your father is in the hospital. It's serious. I felt my heart drop. My name is Harper Calloway, and for as long as I can remember, my life has been a complicated dance between duty and defiance. Especially when it comes to my mother, Evelyn. Is he okay? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He's stable for now, but you should come. He needs you, she replied, her words laced with an unspoken expectation. There it was. Not a request, but a demand. Memories of past betrayals flooded back, like when I was 19 and pregnant, and Evelyn decided that my future was more important than my choice. Her version of love always came with strings attached, and I was tired of being her marionette. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the tide of emotions. I'll be there, I said, knowing I had to see my father, Thomas, the silent bystander in Evelyn's schemes. Hanging up, I leaned against the counter, the sterile smell of disinfectant doing little to calm my racing mind. My father, with his quiet presence, had always been my ally, even if he rarely stood up to Evelyn. The thought of him ill and vulnerable tugged at my heart more than I wanted to admit. As I drove home, the streetlights blurred into streaks of gold against the darkening sky. I thought about the last time I was at my parents' house, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. Evelyn's obsession with appearances had always been at odds with my desire for authenticity. She wanted a perfect daughter to match her perfect life, but I had other plans. Marcus, my husband, was waiting for me when I got home. His warm smile and steady gaze were a balm to my frayed nerves. "Hey, what's going on?" he asked, noticing the worry etched on my face. I sighed, dropping my keys on the table. "It's Dad. He's in the hospital. Mom wants me to come." He nodded, pulling me into a comforting embrace. "Do you want me to come with you?" I shook my head. "No, I need to do this alone." "But thank you." Marcus understood. He always did. He knew the tangled web of my family dynamics and the emotional toll it took on me. "Call me if you need anything, okay?" I nodded, grateful for his support. As I packed a bag, I couldn't shake the feeling that this visit would be different. There was a tension in the air, a sense of impending confrontation that both scared and invigorated me. The drive to my parents' house felt like a journey into the past. Every mile brought back memories of Evelyn's controlling nature and the pressure to conform to her high standards. But it also reminded me of my father, his quiet support, even when he didn't have the courage to stand up to her. Arriving at the hospital, I was greeted by the sterile scent of antiseptic and the low hum of machinery. My heart pounded as I made my way to my father's room, bracing myself for what I might find. Evelyn was there, her posture rigid, her expression carefully composed. "Harper," she said, her voice a mix of relief and something else, something I couldn't quite place. "How is he?" I asked, bypassing any pleasantries. "He's resting," she replied, her gaze flicking to the door behind her. "You should see him." I nodded, stepping past her into the dimly lit room. My father lay there, looking smaller and more fragile than I remembered. Seeing him like this, my heart ached with a mix of love and regret. As I sat by his bedside, I felt a surge of determination. This time, I wouldn't let Evelyn manipulate me. I would be here for my father, but on my terms. Whatever game she was playing, I was ready to face it. Just as I was about to leave the room, Evelyn spoke, her voice low and controlled. "Harper, we need to talk about the future. Your father's condition changes everything." Her words hung in the air, a challenge and a threat. I met her gaze, feeling the weight of her expectations clash with my resolve. This was just the beginning, and I knew that whatever happened next would set the course for everything that followed. Walking up the path to my childhood home, I felt a familiar knot forming in my stomach. The house stood pristine, the garden meticulously manicured. Marcus would appreciate the symmetry, I thought with a faint smile. But to me, it was a facade, a picture-perfect exterior that masked the emotional chaos inside. As I stepped inside, the air was thick with the scent of fresh flowers and polished wood. Everything was in its place, just as Evelyn liked it. "Harper," she called from the living room, her voice carrying that authoritative edge. I found her arranging a vase of roses, each bloom strategically placed. "You made it," she said, glancing up briefly before returning to her task. Her tone was casual, as if we were discussing the weather, not my father's health. "How's Dad?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "He's resting," she replied, not looking up. "The doctors are hopeful, but he needs peace and stability." I nodded, though I knew what she really meant. Peace and stability were her code for control. I watched her for a moment, noting the tension in her shoulders, the way she avoided eye contact. It was as if she was playing a role, the concerned wife, the doting mother, all while orchestrating the scene. "Evelyn," I started, choosing my words carefully, "I want to be here for Dad, but I need to know what's really going on." She paused, finally meeting my gaze. "Everything is under control," she said, her voice smooth. "We just need to keep up appearances, for his sake." For his sake. The words echoed in my mind, a familiar refrain. I felt a flicker of anger, but I swallowed it down. "I'm not here for appearances," I said quietly. Her eyes narrowed slightly, a crack in her polished veneer. "Harper, we all have roles to play. You know how important this is for our family." I bit back a retort, knowing it would only escalate things. Instead, I nodded, though my resolve hardened. This time, I would not be swept into her games. The rest of the day passed in a blur of polite conversations and stilted silences. I checked on my father, who was asleep, his breathing steady but shallow. Seeing him like this, I felt a mix of sadness and determination. I had to be here, but on my terms. Later, as I sat on the porch, Evelyn joined me, a glass of iced tea in her hand. "It's been a while since you were last here," she said, her tone almost conversational. "Yeah," I replied, watching the sun dip below the horizon. "Life gets busy." She nodded, sipping her drink. "I heard you and Marcus are doing well." "We are," I said, feeling a warmth at the mention of his name. "He's been really supportive." "Good," she said, though there was a hint of something else in her voice, envy, perhaps, or regret. "It's important to have someone reliable." I turned to look at her, searching for any sign of sincerity. "Why did you really call me here, Evelyn?" She hesitated, a rare moment of vulnerability flickering across her face. "Harper, I need you to help manage things. The school board is watching, and with your father's condition." There it was. The truth, or at least part of it. Her need to maintain her image, to keep everything looking perfect from the outside. "I'm here for Dad," I said firmly. "But I won't be part of any charade." She stiffened, her composure slipping for just a second. "This is about family," she insisted. "Family," I repeated, the word heavy with irony. "I'm here for Dad, and I'll help where I can. But I won't pretend everything's fine when it's not." Evelyn said nothing, her silence more telling than any argument. As the evening wore on, I felt a shift, a subtle change in our dynamic. I wasn't the compliant daughter anymore, and she knew it. That night, as I lay in my old room, surrounded by remnants of a past life, I felt a strange sense of clarity. Evelyn might want to use Dad's illness as a pawn, but I wouldn't let her. I had my own path to forge, my own story to tell. Before drifting off to sleep, I thought about Marcus, about the life we were building together. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time, I felt ready to face them, on my terms, not Evelyn's. And that was a victory in itself. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the room. I stood by the window, sipping my coffee, trying to brace myself for whatever the day might bring. The air felt heavy, charged with unspoken words and unresolved tensions. I was pulled from my thoughts by a knock on the door. Evelyn entered without waiting for an invitation, her expression a mix of determination and something else, perhaps desperation. "Harper, we need to talk," she said, her voice tight. I turned to face her, setting my coffee down. "About what?" She hesitated, a rare flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "The school board is having a meeting next week. They want to discuss Thomas's condition and how it might affect my position." There it was, the real reason for her urgency. Her image, her status, always at the forefront. "And you need me there because?" "Because it would look better if the family presented a united front," she replied, her words carefully measured. I felt a surge of frustration. "You mean if I play along with your version of reality?" "Harper," she said, her tone softening, "this isn't just about me. It's about all of us. The stability of our family." I shook my head, disbelief mingling with anger. Stability? Or control? Her eyes flashed, but she quickly composed herself. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under." "Maybe not," I conceded, "but I do understand the pressure you've put on me." "On Dad." She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "And what about Logan? Does he know about all this?" Her expression tightened at the mention of my ex-boyfriend. "Logan has nothing to do with this, doesn't he?" I challenged. "He was part of your plans before, wasn't he?" Evelyn's silence was answer enough. I felt a bitter satisfaction at having hit a nerve. But before I could press further, my father's voice called out from down the hall. I excused myself, leaving Evelyn standing there, her composure cracking. In my father's room, I found him sitting up, looking more alert than he had the day before. "Harper," he greeted, his voice warm but weary. "Hey, Dad," I said, sitting beside him. "How are you feeling?" "Better," he replied, though his eyes betrayed his fatigue. "It's good to see you." We sat in silence for a moment, the unspoken words hanging between us. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "I'm sorry, Harper. For everything." I looked at him surprised. "Dad, you don't have to." "No," he interrupted gently, "I do. I should have spoken up more. I should have been there for you." His admission was like a balm, soothing some of the old wounds. "Thank you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. As I sat with him, I noticed a stack of papers on the bedside table. Among them was a letter, the handwriting unmistakably his. Curious, I picked it up, glancing at him for permission. He nodded, a resigned look in his eyes. "I wrote that a while back. Never had the courage to give it to you." I unfolded the letter, my heart pounding as I read his words of regret and love. He acknowledged his silence, his complicity in Evelyn's schemes, and his desire for me to find my own path. It was a revelation, one that deepened my understanding of him and his struggles. "Thank you," I said again, my voice barely a whisper. "This means a lot." He nodded, a small, sad smile on his lips. "I just want you to be happy, Harper. To live your life." As I left the room, the letter clutched tightly in my hand. I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My father's words were a reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight, that there was more to our family than Evelyn's manipulations. I found Evelyn in the kitchen, her back to me as she prepared breakfast. "I'm going to the board meeting," I announced, my voice steady. She turned, surprise flickering across her face. "You will. But not for the reasons you think," I added. "I'm going to support Dad, to make sure his wishes are heard." Evelyn's expression hardened, but she nodded. "As long as we're on the same page." "We're not," I replied, meeting her gaze. "And we never will be." With that, I left the room, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. I was ready to face whatever came next, armed with my father's support and my own determination to break free from the past. As I stepped outside, the morning air felt crisp and full of promise. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, I felt like I was truly on my own path, and that was a victory worth fighting for. Back at the clinic, the familiar sounds of barking dogs and the hum of activity grounded me, offering a brief respite from the chaos at home. But my mind was still tangled in the web of family drama, and I knew I needed to talk to Marcus. After work, I found him in our small garden, tending to the plants with his usual care. The sight of him, so focused and calm, brought a sense of peace. "Hey," I called, walking over to join him. He looked up, wiping his hands on a cloth. "Hey, how was your day?" "Eventful," I replied, leaning against the fence. "I need to talk to you about something." He nodded, setting aside his tools. "What's up?" I took a deep breath, the words tumbling out. "I found a letter from my dad. He wrote it a while ago, apologizing for not standing up to Evelyn. It was a lot to take in." Marcus listened, his expression thoughtful. "How do you feel about it?" "Conflicted," I admitted. It's like, on one hand, I'm grateful he acknowledged it. But on the other, it's hard not to feel angry about all the years he stayed silent. He reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. "It sounds like he's trying to make amends in his own way." "Yeah," I said, nodding. "And I want to be there for him. But Evelyn's still trying to control everything." Marcus frowned, a hint of frustration in his eyes. "She's using his illness to keep up appearances, isn't she?" "Exactly," I replied, the words bitter on my tongue. "And now she wants me to help her put on a show for the school board." He sighed, shaking his head. "You're not obligated to play her games, Harper." "I know," I said, feeling a surge of determination. "But I can't just walk away. I need to stand up for Dad and for myself." Marcus nodded, his support unwavering. "Whatever you decide, I'm here." His reassurance was a balm, giving me the strength I needed. But as I sat there, a new thought struck me, a possibility I hadn't considered. "Marcus," I said slowly, "what if we start looking into adoption?" His eyes widened slightly, surprise mingling with curiosity. "Are you sure?" "I've been thinking about it," I admitted. "I want a family, but I want it to be on our terms, not dictated by my parents' expectations." He smiled, a warmth spreading across his face. "I'm all in, if that's what you want." His response filled me with hope, a vision of a future free from the shadows of the past. But before I could bask in that feeling, my phone buzzed, pulling me back to reality. It was a message from an unknown number. I hesitated, then opened it. The words were like a punch to the gut. "Meet me. We need to talk. It's about Evelyn." I showed the message to Marcus, my mind racing. "Who do you think it is?" he asked, a hint of concern in his voice. "I have no idea," I replied, my heart pounding. "But I need to find out." The next day, I arrived at the designated meeting spot, a quiet cafe on the edge of town. My mind was a whirlwind of possibilities, none of them comforting. As I scanned the room, I spotted a familiar face, Logan. He waved me over, a look of urgency in his eyes. "Harper," he said as I approached, "thanks for coming." I sat down wary. "What's this about, Logan?" He leaned in, his expression serious. "It's about Evelyn. She's planning something, and I thought you should know." I frowned, skepticism creeping in. "Why tell me now?" "Because," he said, his voice low, "she's using me to keep tabs on you. She's worried you'll disrupt her plans." His admission was like a cold bucket of water, shocking and unwelcome. "And you're just going along with it?" I was, he admitted, guilt flashing across his face. "But I realized it's not right. You deserve to know." I studied him, searching for any hint of deception. "Why should I trust you?" "Because," he said, meeting my gaze, "I owe you that much." His words hung in the air, a fragile bridge between past betrayals and possible redemption. I didn't know if I could trust him, but his warning couldn't be ignored. As I left the cafe, my mind was a storm of emotions. Logan's revelation had shifted the ground beneath me, forcing me to reevaluate my next steps. I knew one thing for certain. The stakes were higher than ever, and I had to be ready for whatever came next. The sun was setting as I returned home, the weight of Logan's warning still heavy on my mind. I found Marcus in the living room, his laptop open as he worked on a design. He looked up, concern etched on his face. "How did it go?" I dropped my bag on the floor, running a hand through my hair. "Logan told me Evelyn's been using him to keep tabs on me. She's planning something, but he didn't know what." Marcus frowned, closing his laptop. "Do you think he's telling the truth?" "I don't know," I admitted, pacing the room. "But I can't ignore it. If Evelyn's up to something, I need to be ready." He stood, crossing the room to pull me into a hug. "We'll figure it out, Harper. You're not alone in this." His words were reassuring, but they didn't ease the knot of anxiety in my chest. As much as I wanted to believe Logan, his past betrayals made it hard to trust his motives. Yet the urgency in his voice had been genuine, and that was enough to keep me on edge. The next day, I decided to confront Evelyn. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to wait for the other shoe to drop. When I arrived at my parents' house, I found her in the garden, pruning the roses with precise, deliberate movements. "Evelyn," I called, my voice cutting through the quiet afternoon. She glanced up, a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Harper, I wasn't expecting you." "I need to talk to you," I said, stepping closer. "About Logan." Her expression barely flickered. "What about him?" "He told me you've been using him to keep tabs on me," I said, watching her closely. "Is it true?" She set down the shears, her gaze steady. "Logan is not a reliable source, Harper. You know that." "Maybe," I replied, crossing my arms. "But I also know you'll do whatever it takes to maintain control." Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't deny it. "I'm doing what's necessary for our family." "For your image, you mean?" I countered, frustration simmering beneath my words. "What are you planning, Evelyn?" She sighed, a calculated move. "The board meeting is coming up, and I need to ensure everything goes smoothly. That's all." I shook my head, disbelief mingling with anger. "You're using Dad's illness as leverage, aren't you?" Her silence was answer enough. I felt a surge of determination, a resolve to protect my father from becoming a pawn in her games. "I won't let you manipulate him or me." "Harper," she said, her voice taking on a pleading tone, "I just want what's best for all of us." "Then stop trying to control everything," I shot back. "Let us make our own choices." She opened her mouth to respond, but I turned and walked away, my heart pounding. I needed to get out of there before I said something I'd regret. Back at home, I found Marcus waiting for me, his expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "How did it go?" I sank onto the couch, exhaustion washing over me. She didn't deny it. She's using Dad's illness to keep up appearances. He sat beside me, taking my hand. What are you going to do? I don't know, I admitted, frustration lacing my voice. I feel like I'm caught in a web, and every move I make just tightens it. He squeezed my hand, his presence a steady anchor. We'll find a way through this, Harper. Together. His words were a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't fighting this battle alone. But as the evening wore on, a new thought crept into my mind, a possibility I hadn't dared to consider. What if we go public? I asked, the idea forming as I spoke. Expose Evelyn's manipulation to the board, to the community? Marcus looked thoughtful, weighing the implications. It's a big risk, but it could force her hand. I know, I said, the prospect both terrifying and exhilarating. But it might be the only way to stop her. He nodded, his expression resolute. If that's what you want to do, I'm with you. His support was a balm, giving me the courage to consider the unthinkable. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and the fallout could be severe, but it was time to take a stand. As I lay in bed that night, the weight of the decision settled over me. I was on the brink of a major crisis, one that could redefine everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and justice. But for the first time, I felt ready to face it head-on, determined to fight for the truth, no matter the cost. The community event was in full swing when Marcus and I arrived, the air buzzing with chatter and laughter. It was the kind of gathering Evelyn thrived in, where appearances mattered more than reality. As we entered, I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach, knowing what lay ahead. Evelyn spotted us almost immediately, her smile as polished as ever. Harper, Marcus, she greeted, her voice smooth. I'm glad you could make it. I nodded, trying to keep my expression neutral. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, though the words felt hollow. As the evening wore on, I watched Evelyn work the room, her charm on full display. But beneath the surface, I could sense the tension, the pressure she was under to maintain her facade. It was only a matter of time before the cracks began to show. The opportunity came when Evelyn, in her role as the evening's host, took the stage to make a speech. As she spoke about family values and community, I felt a surge of anger at the hypocrisy of it all. My hands clenched into fists as I listened, the urge to expose the truth almost overwhelming. But it wasn't until she turned her attention to me that the real confrontation began. And let's not forget the importance of legacy, she said, her gaze landing on me. Harper, dear, when will we be hearing the pitter-patter of little feet? The question hung in the air, a challenge wrapped in a seemingly innocent inquiry. I felt Marcus tense beside me, his support a steady presence. But this was a battle I had to fight on my own. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward, the room falling silent as all eyes turned to me. Actually, Evelyn, I said, my voice clear and steady, there's something I've been meaning to share. The tension was palpable, a collective breath held in anticipation. Evelyn's smile faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. I can't have children, I said, the words ringing out like a bell. And it's because years ago, you coerced me into an abortion. The silence that followed was deafening, the shock rippling through the crowd like a wave. Evelyn's composure shattered, her expression a mix of disbelief and anger. Harper, she began, her voice shaking. This is not the place. Why not? I interrupted, my resolve unyielding. You wanted to make this about family, about legacy. Well, this is part of that story. The room was a sea of stunned faces, whispers breaking out like wildfire. I could see the carefully constructed image Evelyn had crafted beginning to crumble, the truth laying bare the manipulation and control. As the weight of my revelation settled over the room, I felt a strange sense of liberation. But it was short-lived, as the enormity of what I'd done began to sink in. The fallout would be severe, and I had no idea how it would affect my father or even Marcus. Evelyn's eyes were blazing, her voice low and dangerous. You've gone too far, Harper. Maybe, I conceded, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. But at least I'm not hiding anymore. The rest of the evening passed in a blur, the atmosphere tense and uncomfortable. Marcus stayed by my side, his presence a comforting anchor as we navigated the aftermath. But as we left the event, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to me like a shadow. Back home, I collapsed onto the couch, exhaustion washing over me. Marcus sat beside me, his expression a mix of pride and concern. "You did it," he said softly. "Yeah," I replied, my voice hollow. "But at what cost?" He took my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "You stood up for yourself, Harper. That's worth something." I nodded, though the uncertainty lingered. I had exposed the truth, but the consequences were still unknown, and the path ahead felt more daunting than ever. As I lay in bed that night, sleep eluded me, my mind a whirlwind of doubts and fears. I had reached a breaking point, the weight of my choices pressing down on me like a heavy shroud. But despite the darkness, a flicker of hope remained, a belief that, somehow, I would find a way through the storm. The morning after the community event felt like the calm before a storm. I woke up with a sense of dread, knowing that the fallout from my revelation was far from over. The house was quiet, Marcus already at work, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the decision I knew I had to make. I needed to see my father. I needed to know if he was okay after everything that had happened. The drive to my parents' house felt interminable, each mile filled with anticipation and fear. When I arrived, the house was eerily still, as if holding its breath. I found my father in his study, a place that had always been his sanctuary. He looked up as I entered, a mix of surprise and relief on his face. "Harper," he greeted, his voice warm despite the tension in the air. "Dad," I said, crossing the room to sit beside him. "I'm sorry about last night. I didn't mean to cause so much trouble." He shook his head, a small smile playing on his lips. "You spoke your truth, Harper. I'm proud of you for that." His words were a balm, soothing the guilt that had been gnawing at me. But before I could respond, Evelyn appeared in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Harper," she said, her voice clipped. "We need to talk." I nodded, feeling the weight of the confrontation looming. We moved to the living room, the air thick with unspoken words. Evelyn stood by the window, her posture rigid, as if bracing herself for what was to come. "You've made quite a mess," she began, her tone sharp but controlled. "I told the truth," I replied, meeting her gaze. "Something you've been avoiding for years." She turned to face me, her eyes blazing with a mix of anger and something else, fear, perhaps. "You've jeopardized everything I've worked for. Your image." I challenged, my voice steady. "Your perfect facade?" Evelyn's composure slipped, her hands clenching into fists. "This isn't just about me, Harper. It's about our family." "Our family," I echoed, the words heavy with irony. "The one you've controlled and manipulated for years?" She flinched, the truth cutting deeper than any accusation. "I did what I thought was best. For you," I said, my voice rising. "Not for Dad, not for me." The room was charged with tension, the air crackling with the weight of our confrontation. But before I could continue, my father entered, his presence a calming force. "Evelyn," he said quietly, his voice firm. "It's time to stop." She turned to him, surprise flickering across her face. "Thomas, you don't understand." "No," he interrupted, his gaze steady. "I do. And I should have said something a long time ago." The silence that followed was profound, a moment of reckoning that had been years in the making. Evelyn's eyes widened, her control slipping as the reality of the situation sank in. "You're taking her side?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I'm taking our side," he replied, his words gentle but resolute. "This isn't about sides, Evelyn. It's about facing the truth." The room was still, the weight of his words settling over us like a heavy blanket. I watched as Evelyn's facade crumbled, the vulnerability beneath her polished exterior laid bare. For a moment, I saw her as she truly was, afraid, insecure, desperate to hold on to the image she'd created. And in that moment, I realized that revenge wasn't what I wanted. Justice wasn't about tearing her down. It was about breaking free from the chains of the past. "Evelyn," I said softly, my voice carrying the weight of years of conflict and pain, "I'm not here to destroy you. I just want to live my life on my terms." She said nothing, her silence a testament to the battle raging within her. But as I turned to leave, I felt a sense of peace settle over me, a certainty that I was finally on the path to healing. Outside, the sun was shining, the world bright and full of promise. As I walked away from the house, I knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But for the first time, I felt free. Free to define my own life. Free to embrace the future with open arms. And that, I realized, was the true victory. The adoption process had been a whirlwind, each step bringing Marcus and me closer to the family we had longed for. The day we brought our daughter home was filled with a quiet joy that settled into every corner of our lives, a testament to the journey we had traveled to get here. As I sat in the nursery, watching her sleep, I felt a profound sense of peace. This was the life I had fought for, a life defined by love, not appearances. The shadows of the past seemed to fade, replaced by the promise of a future filled with hope and possibility. Marcus appeared in the doorway, a soft smile on his face. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" he said, joining me by the crib. "She is," I replied, my heart swelling with gratitude. "I can't believe she's finally here." He wrapped an arm around my shoulders, his presence a comforting anchor. "We did it, Harper. We made it." I nodded, feeling the truth of his words settle over me. We had faced the storm and come out stronger on the other side. But as much as I wanted to leave the past behind, there was still one piece of unfinished business that lingered in my mind. A few days later, a letter arrived. The handwriting was unmistakably Evelyn's, the envelope sealed with a formality that belied the emotions within. I hesitated, the weight of our history pressing down on me as I opened it. The letter was brief, but the words carried a depth of emotion I hadn't expected. Evelyn expressed a desire to reconcile, acknowledging her past mistakes and expressing a hope for healing. It was an olive branch, tentative and fragile, but genuine. I showed the letter to Marcus, my mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. "What do you think?" I asked, needing his perspective. He took a moment to read it, his expression thoughtful. "It sounds like she's trying in her own way." "Yeah," I said, feeling a mix of hope and skepticism. "But can I trust her?" He shrugged, his gaze steady. "That's up to you, Harper. But maybe it's worth considering." His words echoed in my mind as I pondered my next move. Forgiveness was a complex thing, tangled up in years of hurt and betrayal. But as I looked at our daughter, I realized that I wanted to create a world for her that was free from the shadows of the past. With a deep breath, I picked up the phone and dialed Evelyn's number. The line rang, each tone a reminder of the distance that had grown between us. When she answered, her voice was hesitant, unsure. "Harper," she said, a note of surprise in her tone. "Evelyn," I replied, my voice steady. "I got your letter." There was a pause, the silence filled with unspoken words. "I meant what I wrote," she said finally, her voice soft. "I'd like to try and make things right." I considered her words, the sincerity behind them. "I'd like that too," I admitted, feeling the tension begin to ease. "But it's going to take time." "I understand," she replied, a hint of relief in her voice. "Thank you, Harper." As we ended the call, I felt a sense of closure, a resolution that had been a long time coming. It wasn't perfect, and there was still much to be mended. But it was a start. In the days that followed, I focused on the life Marcus and I were building, the family we were creating. It wasn't always easy, but it was ours, and that was enough. One evening, as I watched the sunset from our porch, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The struggles, the triumphs, the lessons learned along the way. I realized that the themes of revenge and justice had transformed into something deeper, a quest for truth, for authenticity, for love. As the sky turned to twilight, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The future was uncertain, but it was also full of promise. And whatever came next, I knew I was ready to face it, surrounded by the love of the family I had chosen and the life I had fought to create. The sound of shattering glass jolted me awake. My heart hammered against my ribs as angry voices echoed through our two-story colonial. I glanced at my phone, 2:17 a.m. This wasn't their usual fighting hour. My name is Eliora, but everyone calls me Eli. At 17, I'd gotten pretty good at reading the rhythm of my parents' arguments. This one felt different, more final somehow. "How long?" My father's voice cracked with an emotion I'd never heard from him before. "How long have you been lying to me?" I crept to my bedroom door, pressing my ear against the cool wood. Mom's response was too quiet to make out, But Dad's bitter laugh cut through the silence like a knife. 12 years, Blythe? Our entire marriage has been built on lies. My stomach dropped. 12 years. The same age as my half-sister Zara. She was sleeping over at a friend's house tonight, thankfully missing whatever storm was breaking over our family. James, please, Mom pleaded. I never meant to. To what? To destroy everything? To make a fool of me? Another crash, followed by the sound of keys jingling. I can't even look at you right now. Heavy footsteps thundered down the stairs. I rushed to my window, watching as Dad stormed out to his car. The engine roared to life, tires squealing against wet pavement as he peeled away into the darkness. Mom stood in the doorway, her silhouette small and defeated in the porch light. I should have gone downstairs. Should have demanded answers. Instead, I crawled back into bed, pulling my covers up to my chin like I was still a little kid who could hide from monsters under blankets. Sleep didn't come. The next morning, everything changed. 2 police officers stood in our living room while Mom collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. Their words blurred together. Wet roads, sharp turn, no guardrail. Dad's car had been found at the bottom of Miller's Ridge. Mrs. Wyndham, one officer said gently, I'm so sorry, but your husband didn't survive the crash. The world tilted sideways. I gripped the door frame, my knees threatening to buckle. Mom's sobs filled the room, but all I could hear was Dad's voice from last night, raw with betrayal. His final words in our house haunting me, I can't even look at you right now. Hours passed in a fog. Relatives started arriving, aunts, uncles, family, friends. Everyone speaking in hushed tones, offering casseroles and condolences. But Grandma and Grandpa Wyndham, Dad's parents, were noticeably absent. When I asked Mom why, she just shook her head and said they were traveling. Late that afternoon, I found myself in Dad's study, breathing in the familiar scent of old books and coffee. His reading glasses still sat on his desk, next to a half-finished crossword puzzle. A photo of us caught my eye, Dad teaching me to fish when I was 12, both of us grinning at the camera with matching sunburned noses. Eli? Mom's voice startled me. She stood in the doorway, eyes red and puffy. Grady's coming over to help with arrangements. Grady Bellamy. Mom's friend from work who'd been spending more and more time at our house lately. Something cold settled in my chest as pieces started clicking into place. Did Dad know? The words slipped out before I could stop them. About you and Grady? Mom flinched like I'd slapped her. This isn't the time, Elira. But it was exactly the time. Dad was gone, and his last moments alive had been filled with anger and betrayal. I turned back to the photo, unable to look at her. When will it be time, Mom? When you're ready to admit what really happened last night? She didn't answer. Her footsteps retreated down the hall, leaving me alone with Dad's ghost and questions that would haunt me for months to come. One thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. 6 months after Dad's funeral, Mom married Grady in our backyard. I watched from my bedroom window as they exchanged vows under the maple tree where Dad had built my childhood swing. The same tree he'd promised to hang fairy lights in for my graduation party next spring. Mom wore a cream-colored sundress and a smile I didn't recognize. Zara scattered rose petals, beaming at her role as flower girl. The small gathering of guests, mostly Grady's friends and family, applauded as they kissed. No one seemed to notice or care that Dad's parents weren't there. That half of our family was missing. Eli? Zara's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She stood in my doorway, still in her pale pink dress. Mom wants you to come down for pictures. I'm not feeling well, I said, the same excuse I'd used to avoid the ceremony. Maybe later. Zara's face fell. But we're family now. Grady says. Grady isn't my father. The words came out sharper than I intended. Zara flinched and guilt twisted in my stomach. None of this was her fault. Sorry, I softened my tone. I just need some time, okay? She nodded and disappeared downstairs, where laughter and music drifted up through the floorboards. I turned back to my window, watching as Grady led Mom in their first dance. His hand rested possessively on her lower back, and something in his expression made my skin crawl. Later that night, After the guests had gone and Zara was asleep, I crept down to the kitchen for water. Voices from the living room stopped me cold. "We need to discuss what to do about Elira," Grady was saying. "Her attitude is affecting Zara." "She's grieving," Mom replied, but her defense sounded weak. "It's only been 6 months. It's been long enough." Grady's voice hardened. "We're a family now, Blythe. Either she accepts that or we need to consider other options." "What do you mean, other options?" "My sister's running that boarding school in Vermont. They have openings for the spring semester." The glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the tile floor. Silence fell in the living room. "Eli?" Mom called out. "Is that you?" I didn't answer. Instead, I ran back upstairs, my bare feet silent on the carpet. Behind me, I heard their muffled argument resume. The next morning, I woke to find boxes stacked in the hallway. Grady was directing movers, pointing out which furniture stayed and which went. "What's happening?" I asked Mom, who was supervising from the doorway. "Grady's moving in properly now," she said, not meeting my eyes. "We're making space for his things." I watched as they dismantled Dad's study, packing away his books and awards. His presence being erased piece by piece. When they reached for the fishing photo on his desk, I snapped. "That's mine," I said, snatching it before the mover could wrap it in paper. "Eli," Mom started, but Grady cut her off. "Let her have it," he said smoothly. "She'll need something for her dorm room, after all." My blood ran cold. So they'd already decided. That afternoon, I found Dad's old laptop buried in one of the boxes headed for storage. I smuggled it to my room, desperate for any connection to him. When I powered it on, a document was still open, an email draft dated the night he died. "Mavis," it began. "I know why you've been trying to warn me about Blythe. Tonight confirmed everything. I need your help protecting." The message cut off there. My hands shook as I read it again. Grandma had tried to warn him? About what? A knock at my door made me quickly close the laptop. Grady stood there, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Family meeting downstairs," he said. "We need to discuss your future." I nodded, my mind racing. Dad's unfinished email felt like a key to a door I didn't even know existed. Whatever Grandma Mavis had tried to tell him, whatever truth she knew, I had to find out. But first, I needed to stop them from shipping me off to Vermont. The family meeting about Vermont never happened. Instead, I spent the night digging through Dad's laptop, looking for any connection to my grandparents. My search led me to a password-protected folder labeled Family Matters. After 3 tries, I cracked it my birthday, followed by Zara's. Inside, I found dozens of emails between Dad and Grandma Mavis, dating back 12 years. The most recent ones made my stomach churn. "James, the DNA test results confirm what we suspected," Grandma had written. "You need to confront Blythe about Zara. And about Grady. This deception has gone on long enough." The timestamp showed Dad had read this email the morning before he died. A soft knock interrupted my reading. "Eli?" Zara's voice came through the door. "Can I come in?" I quickly closed the laptop. "Sure." She slipped inside, clutching her pillow. "I had a bad dream. Can I sleep here?" Looking at her now, knowing what I knew, made my heart ache. She wasn't just my half-sister, she was Grady's daughter. Dad had raised her believing she was his, while Grady and Mom kept their secret. "Of course," I said, moving over. As she settled in beside me, I noticed she was wearing Dad's old college sweatshirt as a nightgown. The sight made me want to cry. "Eli," she whispered in the darkness. "Why doesn't Grady want you to stay?" My breath caught. "What do you mean?" I heard him talking to Mom. "He said you're too much like Dad, that it's not healthy for anyone." Before I could respond, footsteps creaked in the hallway. The door opened, revealing Grady's silhouette. "Zara," his voice was tight. "What are you doing in here?" "I had a nightmare. Back to your room." "Now." She scrambled out of bed, shooting me an apologetic look before scurrying past him. Grady lingered in the doorway. "We need to establish some boundaries," he said. "Zara's impressionable. She doesn't need to be influenced by your attitude." "You mean she doesn't need to remember Dad?" The words felt dangerous in my mouth, but I couldn't stop them. Or is there something else you're worried about? His expression shifted, something cold flickering behind his eyes. What exactly are you implying? Nothing, I said, but my hand instinctively moved to cover Dad's laptop. Just wondering why you're so eager to send me away. He stepped into my room, closing the door behind him. Listen carefully, Eliora. Your mother and I are trying to build something here. A fresh start. If you can't be part of that, there are other options. Like Vermont? Like wherever necessary. His gaze fell on the laptop. What's that? Schoolwork. On your father's computer? He moved closer. Hand it over. No. I clutched it to my chest. This isn't a request. He reached for it, but I scrambled backward. Get out of my room. The door burst open. Mom stood there, looking between us with wide eyes. What's going on? Your daughter's been going through James's personal files, Grady said. Who knows what she's found? Mom's face paled. Eli, give me the laptop. Why? Afraid of what else I might discover. I opened it, hands shaking. Like these emails from Grandma Mavis? Or the DNA test results. The color drained from Mom's face. Grady's hands clenched into fists. How long were you going to keep lying? I demanded. Dad knew, didn't he? That night, when he left, he finally figured it out. About you too. About Zara. Enough. Grady's shout made me flinch. Blythe, handle this. Now. Mom stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Sweetheart, please. It's complicated. No, it's really not. I slammed the laptop shut. Dad died thinking his whole life was a lie. And you're still lying, aren't you? To Zara, to everyone. Vermont isn't optional anymore, Grady cut in. You're leaving next week. I looked at Mom, waiting for her to defend me. She just stood there, silent tears running down her face. Fine, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. But first, I'm calling Grandma Mavis. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Mom's gasp told me everything I needed to know. There were more secrets to uncover, and my grandparents held the key to all of them. Finding Grandma Mavis's number wasn't hard. It was still in Dad's phone contacts. What was hard was working up the courage to call while Grady and Mom were downstairs, probably plotting my exile to Vermont. I paced my room, phone clutched in my sweaty palm. The sound of Zara practicing piano drifted up through the floorboards, the same melody she'd been working on since Dad taught it to her last year. The thought of leaving her behind made my chest ache. Finally, I pressed call. 3 rings. 4. Then, hello? Her voice was exactly as I remembered, warm and strong. Grandma? Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Elira? Is it really you? Yeah. My voice cracked. I found Dad's emails. About the DNA test. About Mom and... Where are you? She cut in, urgency replacing warmth. Are you at home? Yes, but... Listen carefully, sweetheart. Don't tell anyone you called me. Your grandfather and I are 3 hours away. We can be there by... The line went dead. I spun around to find Grady in my doorway, his hand on my room's phone jack. Calling hours are over, he said, pocketing the cable. You can't keep me from talking to my grandparents. Actually, I can. He stepped closer. Your mother signed the boarding school paperwork this morning. You're leaving Sunday. That's in 2 days. Better start packing. I pushed past him into the hallway, racing downstairs to find Mom. She was in the kitchen, methodically loading the dishwasher like everything was normal. You signed the papers? I demanded. Without even talking to me? She wouldn't meet my eyes. It's for the best, Eli. You need a fresh start away from all this. All what? The truth. The past, Grady said from behind me. Which is where it needs to stay. The piano music stopped abruptly. Zara appeared in the doorway, her face pale. You're leaving. No, I said, just as Mom said yes. But why? Zara's voice trembled. Is it because of me? Because I told you about what Grady said. Zara, Grady's tone carried a warning. Go to your room. No. She moved closer to me. I don't want Eli to go. I saw something dangerous flash in Grady's eyes. He stepped toward Zara, but I moved between them. Don't, I said quietly. Don't you dare try to intimidate her like you do everyone else. Grady, Mom started, but he held up his hand. You want to know why your sister's leaving? He asked Zara. Show her the emails, Eli. Tell her everything you found. About her real father. Stop. Mom's shout made us all jump. A glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. In the silence that followed, I could hear her ragged breathing. Mom? Zara's voice was small. What's he talking about? I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She had Grady's eyes. How had I never noticed before? The truth sat like poison on my tongue, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. Nothing, I said finally. He's talking about nothing. Grady smiled, cold and triumphant. He knew he had me cornered. I could tell the truth and destroy Zara's world, or I could leave quietly and protect her from it. I'll go pack, I said, my voice hollow. But as I turned to leave, I caught sight of Dad's reflection in the kitchen window. No, not Dad. Grandfather August, standing on our back porch with Grandma Mavis beside him. They must have already been on their way when I called. Grady followed my gaze and cursed. Mom dropped another glass. Zara, I said quickly, remember how Dad always said the truth sets us free? She nodded. Well, I think it's time for some truth. All of it. The back door opened, and my grandparents stepped into our kitchen like avenging angels. Grandma Mavis took one look at me and opened her arms. I ran to her without hesitation, leaving chaos erupting behind me. Grandma Mavis's kitchen smelled like cinnamon and safety. I sat at her familiar oak table, watching steam rise from my tea while Grandfather August paced behind me. We'd left chaos at my house, Mom crying, Grady threatening legal action, and Zara locked in her room, refusing to speak to anyone. Your father suspected for years, Grandma said, sliding a worn leather journal across the table. But he couldn't prove anything until he found this in Blythe's desk last spring. The journal was Mom's. Inside, detailed entries chronicled her relationship with Grady, starting long before I was born. Before she even met Dad. He was going to confront them that night, Grandfather August said, his voice heavy. We begged him to wait, to let us help him gather more evidence for the divorce. Evidence? I looked up from the journal. Evidence of what? Grandma exchanged a look with Grandfather. Your father discovered some irregularities in his company's accounts. Large sums of money being transferred to offshore accounts. I don't understand. Grady was your father's financial advisor before he married your mother, Grandfather explained. He'd been embezzling funds for years, using your mother's position as company secretary to cover his tracks. The room tilted sideways. Dad's accident. Might not have been an accident at all, Grandma finished softly. A sharp knock at the front door made us all jump. Through the window, I saw Mom's car in the driveway. I'll handle this, Grandfather said, moving toward the door. Wait. I stood up. I want to talk to her. Eli. She owes me the truth. All of it. Mom looked smaller somehow, standing in Grandma's living room. Her eyes were red, her hands twisting together nervously. Where's Grady? I asked. At home with Zara. She swallowed hard. He doesn't know I'm here. Like Dad didn't know about you and Grady all those years? She flinched. I never meant for any of this to happen. Grady. He can be very persuasive when he wants something. Like Dad's money? Or his life. That's not, I didn't know about the money until after. She trailed off, tears spilling down her cheeks. When James confronted me that night, I panicked. I called Grady, told him everything. He said he'd handle it, but I never thought. You never thought he'd actually kill Dad? My voice cracked. Or you just never thought anyone would figure it out? Eli, please. I know I've made terrible mistakes, but I'm still your mother. No. The word came out sharp as glass. My mother died the night Dad did. I just didn't know it until now. A sound from the hallway made us turn. Zara stood there, tears streaming down her face. She must have followed Mom. Is it true? She whispered. Did he kill James? Mom reached for her, but Zara backed away. Sweetheart, it's complicated. Stop lying. Zara screamed. Everyone just stop lying. She ran to me, wrapping her arms around my waist like she used to when she was little. Despite everything, she was still my sister. Blood didn't matter. Dad had taught us that love was stronger than DNA. "What do we do now?" Zara asked, her voice muffled against my shirt. I looked at my grandparents, then at Mom, who seemed to have aged years and minutes. The journal on the table held enough evidence to destroy Grady, but using it would mean destroying what was left of our family too. "We tell the truth," I said finally. "All of it. To the police, to everyone." "Grady will never let that happen," Mom whispered. He'll what?" Grandfather's voice was steel. "Kill someone else? Try to send Eli away? We have evidence now, Blythe. Real evidence." My phone buzzed, a text from Grady. "Come home now, or everyone learns what really happened the night your father died." I showed it to the others. Mom went pale. "He's bluffing," she said, but her voice shook. "Maybe," I replied, already grabbing my keys. "But I'm done running from the truth." Grandma caught my arm. "You're not going alone." I looked at my sister, still clinging to me, then at the journal that held our father's death warrant. "No," I agreed. "We're all going. It's time to finish this." The house was dark when we pulled into the driveway. Too dark. Even the porch light was off, which Mom never allowed. Grandfather August insisted on calling the police, but I knew we couldn't wait. Every minute felt like another chance for Grady to destroy evidence, to bury the truth even deeper. "He's expecting me," I said, gripping Mom's journal in my hands. "Just me." "Absolutely not," Grandma Mavis started, but I cut her off. "Dad died trying to protect this family. I won't let that be for nothing." Before anyone could stop me, I was out of the car and up the front steps. The door was unlocked. Inside, the house felt wrong, like walking into a familiar room where all the furniture had been shifted slightly left. "Grady," my voice echoed in the darkness. "In here." His voice came from Dad's old study. I found him sitting at Dad's desk, illuminated by a single lamp. Dad's laptop was open in front of him, and beside it sat a familiar object that made my blood run cold. Dad's phone. The one the police said they never found at the crash site. Wondering how I got this? Grady's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Amazing what you can retrieve from a ravine if you know where to look." "You went back that night," I said, "to clean up evidence." "Smart girl. Just like your father." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." I remained standing. "Where's Zara?" "Safe. Away from all this mess you're creating." He leaned forward. "You know, James made the same choice you did, choosing truth over family. Look where that got him. You murdered him." I protected what was mine. His voice hardened. "Like I'm going to do right now." The front door opened. Mom's voice called out, followed by Grandma Mavis's. Grady's expression darkened. "I told you to come alone." "I did." I held up the journal. "And I brought what you really want." His eyes fixed on it. "Your mother's little diary." James was so proud of himself for finding it. "It has everything. The affair, the money transfers, all of it." "Hand it over." I took a step closer to his desk. "Tell me what happened that night first." "The whole truth." He studied me for a long moment, then shrugged. "Your father was going to ruin everything. The life I'd built, the future I'd planned. He called that night, said he was going to the police. I couldn't let that happen. So you followed him." I tried talking sense into him first. When that failed, he spread his hands. "Sometimes accidents are necessary." Footsteps approached the study. I needed to keep him talking, keep him distracted. "And Mom? Did she know?" "Blythe knows what she needs to know. Just like you're going to forget what you think you know, unless you want Zara to grow up without both her father and her sister." The threat hung in the air between us. I thought of Zara, already losing one father, now learning the truth about another. The journal felt heavy in my hands. "You're right," I said quietly. "Sometimes we have to protect what's ours." I held out the journal. As Grady reached for it, I let it fall. In his moment of distraction, I lunged for Dad's phone on the desk. But Grady was faster. His hand clamped around my wrist, twisting until pain shot up my arm. The phone clattered to the floor as he yanked me forward, his other hand going to my throat. I tried to be reasonable, he snarled. Tried to give you a chance to be smart about this. Let her go. Mom's scream came from the doorway. Everything happened at once. Grady spun me around, using me as a shield. Grandfather August appeared behind Mom, holding something that glinted in the dim light. And there, in the corner of the room, stood Zara. She must have been hiding there the whole time, recording everything on her phone. It's over, Grady, I managed to say through his chokehold. The truth's already out. His grip tightened. Then I have nothing left to lose, do I? The last thing I saw was Mom lunging forward, terror in her eyes, as Grady dragged me backward toward the window. Then everything went black. I woke to the steady beep of hospital monitors and the sensation of someone holding my hand. For a moment, I thought it was Dad, like when I had my appendix out at 12. But when my eyes focused, I saw Grandma Mavis, her face etched with worry. "Welcome back, sweetheart," she whispered. The events in Dad's study came rushing back. Grady is in custody. Grandfather August stepped into view. Zara's video and your father's phone provided enough evidence. The police are reopening James's case. My throat felt raw where Grady's hands had been. Where's Zara? Here. She appeared at my bedside, eyes red from crying. I'm so sorry, Eli. I heard him on the phone earlier, planning to send you away. I knew something was wrong, so I hid in the study and recorded everything. You saved us all, I told her, squeezing her hand. A commotion in the hallway drew our attention. Mom burst in, followed by 2 police detectives. 5 minutes, one of them said. Then we need your official statement, Mrs. Bellamy. It's Wyndham, Mom corrected sharply. I'm going back to Wyndham. She approached my bed cautiously, like I might shatter. Eli, I need to tell you something. About your father's trust fund. The one he set up for my college? No. She pulled out a familiar envelope, the one I'd seen in Dad's desk the night he died. This is his letter to you. The one Grady tried to destroy. It explains everything. With shaking hands, I opened it. Dad's familiar handwriting filled the page. My dearest Eli, if you're reading this, then my suspicions about Grady were correct. I've documented everything, the embezzlement, the threats, the affair. But more importantly, I've secured your future. The trust fund isn't just for college. It's everything I had, transferred to an account only you and your grandparents can access. I knew Grady would come after me once he discovered what I'd done. But I couldn't let him steal your future like he stole our family's trust. Protect Zara. She's innocent in all this, and she'll need her big sister more than ever. And Eli? Remember what I always told you about truth and justice? Sometimes they come at a terrible price. But they're worth fighting for. All my love. Dad. I looked up at Mom, who was crying silently. You knew about this letter? Grady found it first, she admitted. He used it to convince me to marry him. Said he'd destroy everything, the evidence, the trust fund, our family, if I didn't help him cover up what happened to James. So you chose him over the truth? Over Dad's justice? I chose what I thought would protect you and Zara. Her voice cracked. I was wrong. So terribly wrong. The detective stepped back in. Mrs. Wyndham, it's time. Mom straightened her shoulders. I'm ready to tell the truth. All of it. Wait. I caught her hand. Dad's letter. He wanted justice, but he also wanted us to heal. To be a family again. How can we? After everything? By choosing truth this time, I said. Together. Zara moved closer, taking Mom's other hand. For a moment, we stood connected, 3 generations of women choosing truth over fear. Mr. and Mrs. Wyndham, I looked at my grandparents. Will you help us? Grandma Mavis wiped her eyes. That's all we've ever wanted, dear heart. The detective cleared his throat. There's one more thing. We found something else at the house. A recording on James's phone. From that night, my heart stopped. Dad's last moments, preserved in digital memory. Do you want to hear it? The detective asked. I looked at my family, broken but healing, fractured but not destroyed. Dad's words echoed in my mind. Sometimes truth and justice come at a terrible price. But they're worth fighting for. Yes, I said firmly. We need to hear everything. Because that's what Dad taught me. that truth, no matter how painful, was the first step toward healing. And we had a lot of healing left to do. 1 year later, I stood in front of Dad's grave, brushing autumn leaves from his headstone. The trial had ended last week. Grady got 20 years for Dad's murder, with Mom receiving immunity for her testimony. The recording from Dad's phone had captured everything, including Grady's confession before he forced Dad's car off the road. Ready? Zara appeared beside me, carrying a bouquet of Dad's favorite sunflowers. She lived with me and our grandparents now, her choice after Mom started therapy and moved into a small apartment across town. We were all healing, but at different paces, in different places. Almost. I pulled out Dad's old journal, the one I'd found hidden in his desk after the trial. I want to read him something first. Zara nodded, settling cross-legged on the grass. I opened to the last entry, dated the morning of his death. My greatest fear isn't dying. It's leaving my girls without showing them that love is stronger than blood, that truth matters more than comfort. And that family isn't just who we're born to, but who we choose to become. He was right, Zara said softly. About all of it. A familiar car pulled up to the cemetery gates. Mom, right on time for our weekly visit. These meetings were still awkward, filled with careful conversations and tentative steps toward forgiveness. But we kept showing up, week after week, choosing truth over comfort, just like Dad taught us. Girls? Grandma Mavis called from behind us. Your mother's here. I closed the journal, tucking it back into my bag next to the acceptance letter from Dad's alma mater. The trust fund he'd set up would cover my tuition, but it was his words, not his money, that had guided me here. Mom approached slowly, carrying her own flowers. Her hair was graying at the temples now, and grief had etched permanent lines around her eyes. But there was something lighter about her these days, like setting down a heavy secret had allowed her to stand straighter. I found something, she said, holding out an envelope. In my old diary. Inside was a photo I'd never seen, Dad teaching me to write my name, both of us laughing as I scribbled backwards letters across his legal pad. On the back, he'd written, Eli's first story, about a family of birds who flew in different directions, but always found their way home. I was cleaning out the storage unit, Mom explained. Thought you might want it for your dorm room. My throat tightened. Next week, I'd be heading to college, leaving behind the cemetery, this town, all these ghosts. But not the truth, never that. Thanks, I managed. Then, surprising us both, I hugged her. Zara joined us, then Grandma Mavis and Grandfather August. We stood there, this patchwork family held together by choice rather than obligation, by truth rather than comfort. Later that night, as I packed my room, I found one last surprise, a sealed envelope that had fallen behind my desk. Dad's handwriting again, but this time addressed to both my daughters. Zara sat beside me as I read. My dear girls, by the time you read this, you'll understand that family isn't always what it seems. But here's what I know for certain. Love doesn't care about DNA. Truth doesn't bend to convenience. And strength isn't about never falling. It's about who helps you stand back up. Eli, protect your sister's heart. Zara, guard your sister's spirit. Together, you're stronger than any secret, any lie, any storm. And remember, sometimes the hardest paths lead us exactly where we need to be. All my love. Dad. I looked at Zara, this sister who wasn't my sister by blood, but was my sister in all the ways that mattered. She smiled, tears in her eyes. He knew, she whispered. He knew all along, and he loved us anyway. No, I corrected gently. He loved us completely. Because that was Dad's final lesson that love, like truth, doesn't need qualifiers. It simply is. And sometimes, that's enough to build a future on.
I never thought my life would change so dramatically at a party I didn't even want to attend. Looking back now, I can pinpoint that exact moment when everything shifted. When I first locked eyes with him across Jenna's crowded living room. My name is Morgan, and 6 months ago, I moved to Seattle for a fresh start after a messy breakup. Starting over at 32 wasn't exactly in my life plan, but neither was catching my ex-fiancé with his secretary. Classic, right? You can't hide in your apartment forever. Jenna had insisted earlier that evening, practically dragging me to her housewarming party. The dental office will survive one night without their best hygienist. I was nursing my second glass of wine in the corner, watching people mingle, when Jenna materialized beside me. See that guy by the window? That's Ethan Stone. He's single, successful, and definitely your type. I'm not looking for. I started to protest, but then he turned around. Tall, with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He caught me staring and raised his glass slightly. Too late, Jenna whispered, already waving him over. Ethan, come meet Morgan. The next hour flew by as we talked about everything and nothing. Ethan was charming, self-deprecating, and actually listened when I spoke. He told me about his work as a financial consultant, his love for obscure documentaries, and his teenage son Tyler. Single dad? I asked, trying to sound casual. Divorced, he replied, something flickering behind his eyes. Tyler lives with his mom most of the time, but we're working on rebuilding our relationship. There was weight to those words, a story he wasn't telling. Before I could probe further, his phone buzzed. The change in his expression was subtle but immediate, like a cloud passing over the sun. Everything okay? I asked. Just Tyler, he said, typing rapidly. Teenager stuff. You know how it is. But his hands were shaking slightly as he put the phone away, and that easy smile seemed more forced now. The party was winding down when Ethan asked for my number. I'd love to take you to dinner sometime, he said. There's this great little Italian place downtown. I hesitated. My heart was still bruised, and something about his earlier reaction to that text nagged at me. But there was also something magnetic about him, something that made me want to know more. I'd like that, I heard myself say. As I was leaving, I overheard a snippet of conversation from the kitchen. A woman's voice, tense and urgent. Ethan, you can't keep covering for him. This has to stop. I glanced back to see Ethan with an elegant blonde woman, not much older than me, but with a hardness around her eyes that aged her. His ex-wife. They fell silent when they noticed me, and Ethan quickly stepped away, flashing that perfect smile again. Drive safe, Morgan, he called out. I'll call you tomorrow. That night, I lay awake thinking about Ethan's warm laugh and interesting stories. But I also couldn't shake the memory of his trembling hands, that whispered conversation, and the shadow that crossed his face when he mentioned his son. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for making tonight bearable. Dinner tomorrow? Ethan. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the reply button. Something told me that saying yes would set events in motion that I couldn't control. But isn't that what I came to Seattle for? A fresh start, a new story? I typed yes and hit send, not knowing then that this simple response would lead me down a path that would test everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and the price of keeping secrets. 3 weeks into dating Ethan, and I still couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. The restaurant was perfect, the conversation flowed easily, and Ethan was as charming as ever. But every time his phone buzzed, that familiar tension would creep back into his shoulders. Tyler's coming over tomorrow, he mentioned casually, pushing his pasta around his plate. I thought maybe you could join us for dinner? My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Are you sure? Meeting your son. That's a big step. It's just dinner, Ethan said, but his knuckles whitened around his wine glass. Besides, he should know who's making his father so happy. I agreed, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. The next evening, I arrived at Ethan's modern townhouse clutching a homemade apple pie. A peace offering of sorts. Tyler answered the door. Tall and lanky like his father, but with none of Ethan's warmth. His eyes, sharp and calculating, sized me up in seconds. Another one? He called over his shoulder. Really, Dad? Ethan appeared behind him, shooting me an apologetic look. Tyler, we talked about this. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. During dinner, Tyler barely touched his food, responding to questions with monosyllabic grunts. I tried making conversation about school, his interests, anything, but each attempt hit a wall of teenage hostility. So, Tyler, Ethan said, his voice forcefully cheerful, how's that business project going? Tyler's head snapped up, something like panic flashing across his face before being replaced by careful neutrality. Fine. Business project? I asked, genuinely curious. Tyler's quite the entrepreneur, Ethan explained. He's starting an online. It's nothing, Tyler cut in. Just a stupid school thing. The doorbell rang, making both stone men jump. Tyler checked his phone and stood abruptly. That's Mom. I'm out. Valerie's here? Ethan's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. He followed Tyler to the door, leaving me alone at the table. I couldn't help but overhear their conversation in the hallway. You can't keep throwing money at this problem, Ethan. Valerie's voice was low but intense. He needs help, not enablement. I'm handling it, Ethan hissed back. Like you handled everything else? He's following in your footsteps, and not the good ones. Not now, Val. Please. I busied myself clearing plates when they returned. Valerie stood in the doorway, elegant and imposing in her designer suit. Her eyes met mine and I saw something like pity in them. You must be Morgan, she said. I've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope? I managed, hating how small my voice sounded. Of course, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Ethan always speaks highly of his friends. The emphasis on that last word wasn't lost on me. After they left, Ethan poured himself a generous whiskey. I'm sorry about tonight. Tyler's been going through some things. What kind of things? I asked carefully. Teenage stuff. Nothing serious. He knocked back the drink. Listen, I need to make some calls. Work emergency. Rain check on dessert. Later that night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tyler's panic when Ethan mentioned the business project, Valerie's cryptic warnings, the way both father and son seemed to be dancing around some unspoken secret. My phone lit up with a text from Jenna. How was dinner with the future stepson? Winking face. I started typing. Something's not right. I think Ethan and Tyler are. I deleted it. What exactly did I think they were doing? I had no proof of anything except a tense family dynamic, which was hardly unusual in divorce situations. Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Stay away from Ethan and Tyler. You don't know what you're getting into. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. The message disappeared before my eyes, leaving me wondering if I'd imagined it. But the sick feeling in my stomach told me this was just the beginning of whatever I'd stumbled into. I never meant to snoop. But when Ethan left his study door open while taking a shower, the scattered papers on his desk seemed to call out to me. The anonymous text from last week still haunted me, and I needed answers. My hands trembled as I approached his desk. Bank statements, investment reports, and what looked like loan documents lay spread across the surface. One number caught my eye. A wire transfer to Tyler's account for $50,000. The shower was still running upstairs. I dug deeper, finding more transfers. $20,000 here, $30,000 there. All to Tyler, all within the last few months. My stomach churned as I noticed a pattern. The transfers usually happened late at night, often followed by angry text exchanges I glimpsed on Ethan's unlocked tablet. Need more. They're not happy with the last payment. Tyler. This has to stop. I can't keep covering for you. Ethan. You don't understand what they'll do. Tyler. The shower stopped. I quickly straightened the papers, but a manila envelope slipped from beneath them, spilling photographs across the floor. My heart nearly stopped. They were surveillance photos. Tyler meeting with men in dark cars, exchanging envelopes in parking lots. In one photo he looked terrified, his face bruised. Find anything interesting? I spun around. Tyler stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. I was just looking for a pen, I stammered. No, you were looking for answers. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. Did you find what you wanted to know? Tyler, are you in trouble? He laughed, but it was hollow. Trouble doesn't begin to cover it. And now you're in it too. What does that mean? It means you should have listened to that warning text. My shock must have shown because he added, yeah, that was me. I thought maybe you'd be smart enough to walk away. Footsteps on the stairs. Tyler moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Don't tell my dad about this conversation. For your own good. The door opened and Ethan appeared, hair still damp. Everything okay in here? Just getting to know Morgan better, Tyler said, his tone completely changed. She was telling me about her work at the dental office. I forced a smile, my heart racing. Right. Very fascinating stuff about plaque and gingivitis. That evening, I made an excuse to leave early. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Valerie. We need to talk. Tomorrow 2 p.m. Cascade Coffee on 5th. Come alone. I nearly swerved off the road when another text followed. Delete these messages. Don't tell Ethan. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, jumping at every sound. Valerie swept in exactly at 2, looking immaculate in a business suit. Thank you for coming, she said, sitting down. I assume you've started noticing things aren't quite what they seem with the stone men. I nodded, unable to find words. What I'm about to tell you. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Let's just say there's a reason Ethan and I divorced, and it wasn't irreconcilable differences. The money transfers to Tyler are just the tip of the iceberg. She pulled out her phone, showing me a news article from 3 years ago. Ethan's investment firm collapsed after clients accused him of running a Ponzi scheme. He was cleared of charges, but some of his clients weren't the type to care about legal proceedings. They wanted their money back by any means necessary. She put her phone away. Now Tyler's caught up in their web too. My mind raced, connecting dots. The business venture. Is Tyler trying to gambling his way out of his father's debt? Valerie's eyes filled with tears. And I'm afraid they're both in too deep to save themselves. As I left the coffee shop, my phone buzzed again. A text from Tyler. Hope Mom filled you in. Now you have a choice to make. Help us or walk away. But choose fast. We're running out of time. Attached was a photo of Ethan in his office, unaware he was being watched through the window. The timestamp showed it was taken 10 minutes ago. I stared at the image, realizing I had crossed a point of no return. Whatever I chose to do next would change everything for all of us. I sat in Jenna's living room, my hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea, trying to make sense of everything I'd learned. The same room where I'd first met Ethan now felt like a different universe entirely. Let me get this straight, Jenna said, pacing. Ethan's ex-clients are threatening him, Tyler's gambling to pay them off, and you found surveillance photos? That's not even the worst part. I pulled out my phone, showing her Tyler's latest text. I think someone's watching Ethan's office. Jenna grabbed her laptop. What was the name of his investment firm? Stone Financial Solutions. Why? Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Because something's not adding up. Here, look at this. She turned the screen toward me. It was a financial news article from 2 years ago. Former Stone Financial CEO linked to offshore accounts. The article's been scrubbed from most sites, Jenna explained, but I found it cached. The money that disappeared? It wasn't lost in bad investments. My stomach dropped. You think Ethan stole it? I think. Jenna's words were cut off by my phone ringing. Tyler's name flashed on the screen. Morgan. His voice was shaky. I need help. I'm at the Grand Casino. Please don't tell my dad. Tyler, what happened? They're here. The men Dad owes money to. They saw me winning and... A muffled sound then. Just hurry. Please. I was already grabbing my keys. I'm calling your father. No. The panic in his voice stopped me. They said if Dad shows up, they'll release everything. The proof of what he did, where the money really went. It'll destroy him. Jenna grabbed my arm. This feels like a trap. She was right, but I couldn't shake the terror in Tyler's voice. I have to go. Then I'm calling the police. And tell them what? That my boyfriend's son is gambling illegally? That'll just make everything worse. The casino parking lot was nearly empty when I arrived. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Loading dock. Come alone. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but I thought about Tyler, just a kid really, in way over his head. I found the loading dock, my heels echoing in the darkness. Hello. You actually came. Tyler stepped out of the shadows, but he wasn't alone. A man in an expensive suit stood beside him, looking amused. Tyler, are you okay? He's fine, the man said smoothly. Just helping us send a message to his father. You see, Ethan Stone doesn't just owe us money. He owes us revenge. I don't understand. No. He pulled out a phone, showing me a video. It was Ethan younger sitting across from the same man. They were laughing, planning something. Something illegal. Your boyfriend didn't just steal from his clients, the man explained. He stole from his partners. Set us up to take the fall when it all went south. But now, he smiled coldly. Now we have his son. And his girlfriend. Tyler wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, Morgan. They promised if I helped get you here, they'd leave Dad alone. You really think they'll keep that promise? Enough talking. The man cut in. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call Ethan. Tell him to bring the real records, all of them, to this address in 1 hour. If he doesn't. My phone buzzed again. A text from Jenna. Police on their way. Stall them. I looked at Tyler, saw the fear behind his attempt at bravado, saw how much he was like his father, trying to fix everything himself, only making it worse. Okay, I said, pulling out my phone. I'll call him. But as I dialed, I wasn't calling Ethan. I was choosing sides in a war I never wanted to join, hoping I was betting on the right people. Because sometimes I was learning the only way to save someone is to first destroy their carefully constructed lies. The police arrived just as everything started falling apart. Blue and red lights flooded the loading dock. But instead of relief, I felt a new kind of terror as Tyler bolted into the darkness and the man in the suit simply smiled. As if this too was part of his plan. Morgan Rivers? An officer approached. Your friend Jenna called us. Are you all right? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with Ethan's name. The man in the suit caught my eye and mouthed something that looked like tick-tock before melting into the shadows. I'm fine, I told the officer. Just a misunderstanding. But nothing was fine. Tyler was gone, and I had no idea whose side I was really on anymore. I answered Ethan's call with shaking hands. Where's Tyler? His voice was raw, desperate. The casino's security called me. We need to talk. Not over the phone. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Ethan in an all-night diner, watching his perfect facade crumble as I laid out everything I knew. The gambling, the threats, the offshore accounts. You don't understand, he said, running his hands through his hair. Those men, they're not just former business partners. They're dangerous people who you set up to take the fall, I finished. I saw the video, Ethan. His face went pale. What video? Does it matter? What matters is Tyler is out there somewhere, thinking he has to save you from your own mistakes. You think I don't know that? His fist slammed the table, making our coffee cups rattle. Everything I've done, everything was to protect him. By lying? By letting him gamble away his future. By trying to fix what I broke. The raw pain in his voice made me flinch. When the firm collapsed, those men threatened Tyler. Said they'd hurt him unless I paid them back double what they lost. The gambling was his idea. His way of trying to help. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Meet me at Riverside Park. Alone. I know how to fix this. He's texting you, isn't he? Ethan's eyes were desperate. Morgan, please. Don't go alone. But I was already standing. You lost the right to make that call when you dragged everyone into your mess. The park was deserted at this hour, mist rolling in from the river. I found Tyler by the old carousel, looking younger and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. I got the records, he said without preamble, pulling out a USB drive. Everything Dad did, everyone he hurt. If we give this to them, they'll destroy your father. Maybe he deserves it. But his voice cracked on the words. And what about you? The gambling, the lies. Was that all just to protect him? Tyler's laugh was bitter. You know what's funny? I started gambling thinking I could win enough to pay them off, save Dad. Then I started winning and it felt good. Like for once I was in control. But you weren't. No. He looked at the USB drive. And now they own us both. Footsteps behind us. We turned to see Valerie emerging from the shadows. Mom. Tyler's voice was small, like a child's. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? She moved closer, her heels clicking on the pavement. The late nights, the money transfers, the way you both jumped every time your phones buzzed? She held out her hand to Tyler. Give me the drive. You don't know what's on it, he protested. I know exactly what's on it. Because I'm the one who created those records in the first place. My head spun as another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Valerie hadn't just been Ethan's wife. She'd been his company's chief financial officer. The question isn't what's on that drive, she continued, her eyes meeting mine. The question is, what are we going to do with it? I looked between them, mother and son, each carrying pieces of a story I was only beginning to understand. And I realized that sometimes the path to justice isn't about choosing sides. It's about creating a new path altogether. The USB drive felt impossibly heavy in my hand as Valerie led us to her car. The night had turned cold, matching the chill that had settled in my chest. Tyler sat in the back seat silent, while his mother drove us to what she called the only place left to fix this. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Ethan's desperate messages, Jenna's worried texts, and one new number that just sent coordinates and a countdown timer. They're watching us, Valerie said, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Have been since the casino. Why didn't you tell anyone? I asked. About the records, about your involvement? Because admitting I helped create the problem wouldn't solve it. She caught Tyler's eye in the rearview mirror. Sometimes protecting the people you love means carrying secrets that could destroy them. We pulled up to an abandoned office building, the former headquarters of Stone Financial Solutions. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mom, we can't, Tyler started. We can and we will. Valerie's voice was steel. It's time to end this. The man from the casino was already waiting inside, along with two others in expensive suits. They looked more like board members than thugs, which somehow made them more terrifying. The prodigal family returns, the first man smiled. And they brought a guest. We have what you want, Valerie said, nodding at the drive in my hand. Do you? He turned to me. Miss Rivers, did they tell you what's really on that drive? Not just evidence of Ethan's betrayal, but proof that his ex-wife orchestrated the whole thing. My head snapped toward Valerie. She didn't flinch. The perfect setup, he continued. Ethan takes the fall, Valerie walks away clean with millions, and poor Tyler becomes the bargaining chip neither parent can afford to lose. That's not. Tyler stepped forward, but one of the men pulled out a gun. Careful, kid. Wouldn't want to end up like your father's last partner. The words hit me like a physical blow. What happened to the partner? Ask Valerie. She was there the night he had his accident. I looked at Tyler's mother, searching for denial in her face. Found none. You don't understand, she said quietly. What these men wanted, what they still want, it was never just about money. No, the man agreed. It was about power, control, the rush of playing God with other people's lives. Isn't that right, Valerie? My phone buzzed again. Ethan. Don't trust anyone. On my way. But who could I trust? Ethan, who'd hidden his past. Valerie, who might be playing us all. Tyler, caught between loyalty and survival? Enough games, the man said. The drive, Miss Rivers. Now. I held it tight, knowing it contained enough evidence to destroy everyone in this room, including Tyler's chance at a normal life. Morgan, please, Tyler's voice cracked. Whatever's on there, whatever they say about mom or dad, they're still my parents. The man's gun shifted slightly. Parents who've lied to him his entire life, who've used him as a pawn in their little power games. Maybe it's time someone showed him the truth. The truth. I laughed and it sounded hollow even to me. The truth is you're all so caught up in revenge and power that you've forgotten there's a 17-year-old kid's life at stake. Then give us the drive, he said softly, and we'll make sure he stays safe. I looked at Tyler, saw the fear and hope warring in his eyes. At Valerie, her mask finally cracking to show the desperate mother beneath. At the USB drive that held enough secrets to burn everyone's carefully constructed worlds to the ground. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the tension. The man's smile turned predatory. Time to choose, Miss Rivers. Who burns and who walks away? I made my decision just as the doors burst open, revealing Ethan with a gun of his own. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw the same realization in his face that I felt in my heart. Sometimes saving someone means being willing to lose them first. I dropped the drive and crushed it under my heel. The gunshot that followed seemed almost quiet in comparison to Tyler's scream. The hospital waiting room felt like limbo. Tyler hadn't left Ethan's bedside since the surgery, while Valerie paced the hallway, her designer heels clicking a rhythm that matched my pounding heart. The bullet had missed Ethan's heart by inches. A warning shot, the man had said, before the police burst in. But we all knew this wasn't over. They'll come back, Valerie said, finally stopping her pacing. They always do. Then we end this. Tonight. I pulled out my phone, showing her the backup drive I'd hidden in my cloud storage. You weren't the only one keeping receipts. Her eyes widened. You copied the files? Insurance. But not the version they wanted. I managed a grim smile. I edited it. Changed just enough details to implicate their entire operation without destroying your family. Why would you? Because Tyler deserves a chance at a normal life. And maybe you and Ethan do too. The elevator dinged and 3 men in suits stepped out. Not the ones from before, but cut from the same cloth. Corporate sharks smelling blood in the water. Miss Rivers, the tallest one said smoothly. A word. I followed them to a private waiting area, feeling Valerie's eyes on my back. They didn't bother with introductions. Our associates were impressed with your initiative earlier, he said. Destroying the drive was unexpected. Bold. The kind of move that suggests you understand the game better than most. This isn't a game. Everything's a game, Miss Rivers. The question is, which side are you playing for? I thought of Ethan lying in that hospital bed, of Tyler's face when the shot rang out, of all the lies and secrets that had led us here. I'm not playing for any side, I said, pulling out my phone. I'm changing the rules. I showed them the edited files, enough evidence to bring down their operation, but carefully curated to protect Tyler's future. You release these, you go down too, the man warned. Maybe. But I've already sent copies to every major news outlet and federal agency. Dead man's switch. If anything happens to any of us, it all goes public. The second man stepped forward, menacing. You're bluffing. Try me. I've got nothing left to lose. I met his gaze steadily. But you? You've got everything to lose. What do you want? Simple. You walk away. Leave the stones alone. Find new players for your power games. And if we refuse? I pressed a button on my phone. Then the first batch of files releases in 60 seconds. The tension in the room could have cracked glass. The men exchanged looks, having a silent conversation I couldn't read. You know, the first man said finally. Ethan said something similar once. Right before he betrayed us. I'm not Ethan. No. He studied me carefully. You're something far more dangerous. A true believer. My phone buzzed, Valerie's text. Tyler found something in Ethan's room. Get back here. 40 seconds, I reminded them. The leader nodded slightly. Cancel the release. You've made your point. He turned to leave, then paused. But remember, Miss Rivers, changing the rules doesn't mean the game is over. It just means the players get more creative. I waited until they were gone before my legs gave out. Valerie found me there, shaking. Morgan? What did you do? What you and Ethan couldn't, I managed. I chose truth over power. She helped me up, leading me to Ethan's room. Tyler stood by the window, holding a letter. Dad woke up, he said quietly. Asked me to give you this. The letter was short, written in Ethan's unsteady hand. Morgan, I should have trusted you from the start. Maybe then we could have avoided all this. But watching you fight for my son, for our family, even after learning the worst of me, I finally understand what real strength looks like. Whatever you did to make them leave, thank you. And I'm sorry. I looked up to find Tyler and Valerie watching me, their faces showing the same mix of hope and fear I felt. So, Tyler asked, what happens now? I folded the letter carefully. Now we learn how to live without secrets. 6 months after the shooting, I stood in front of an easel in my apartment, trying to capture the way sunset painted Seattle's skyline in shades of redemption. The painting wasn't perfect like everything else in my life now, but it was honest. The door buzzed. Tyler, right on time for our weekly dinner. That's new, he said, nodding at the canvas while dropping his backpack. He looked healthier now, the shadows under his eyes replaced by a teenager's natural energy. Just a hobby I picked up in therapy. I wiped paint from my hands. How's the counseling going? Good. Dad came to group today. He helped me set the table, a routine we'd fallen into naturally. He actually talked about the old days. about why he made the choices he did. And I think I finally understand. Not just what he did, but why Mom stayed quiet for so long. They both thought they were protecting me. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. How protection through secrets had nearly destroyed us all. Dinner was interrupted by a knock. Valerie stood in the hallway, holding a familiar-looking envelope. "They're really gone," she said without preamble, stepping inside. My contacts confirmed it. The whole organization's disbanded. "Just like that?" Tyler asked. "No," I said, taking the envelope. "Not just like that. Your mother's been working with the FBI for months, hasn't she?" Valerie's slight smile was answer enough. "Let's just say those edited files you created gave them exactly the opening they needed." The envelope contained newspaper clippings, financial crimes, arrests, corporations dismantled. The kind of justice that happens in boardrooms rather than courtrooms, but justice nonetheless. "Does Dad know?" Tyler asked. "He will," Valerie replied. "When he's ready." We ate together, this strange new family built from the wreckage of secrets and lies. Afterward, Tyler helped me clean up while Valerie examined my painting. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "the gallery attached to my office has been looking for new artists. Local voices, raw talent." "I'm not an artist," I protested. "I just needed a way to process everything. Sometimes that's exactly what art is." She touched the canvas gently, finding beauty in the breakdown. Tyler emerged from the kitchen, phone in hand. "Dad's asking if we're still on for Saturday." The weekly family dinners had been his idea. A chance to rebuild trust one meal at a time. Ethan was healing both physically and emotionally. Our relationship was complicated, but maybe that's what made it real. "Tell him yes," I said. "But remind him it's his turn to cook." After they left, I returned to my painting. The cityscape had changed while we ate. Darkness creeping in, lights flickering to life. Like secrets coming to light, I thought, adding touches of brightness to the shadows. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You changed the game. Remember what that means." I stared at the message, feeling an old fear stir. Then I deleted it, turned off my phone, and picked up my brush again. Some threats were just echoes now, and I refused to let them haunt us anymore. The painting took shape under my hands. Not just Seattle's skyline, but the story of us. The dark and light, the secrets and truths, the broken pieces made beautiful by how they'd been repaired. In the corner, I signed my name for the first time, Morgan Rivers. Not just a dental hygienist who stumbled into someone else's drama, but a woman who learned that sometimes saving a family means first letting it break apart. Tyler had left his sketchbook behind. He'd started drawing recently too. Inside, I found a note. "Thanks for not giving up on us, even when we deserved it." I smiled, adding one final touch to my painting. A small figure on a rooftop facing the sunset. Not hiding anymore, not running, just standing in their truth. Sometimes I was learning that's all the redemption we need.
The rejection email from Sterling Medical University sat in my inbox like a bomb that refused to detonate. Something about it felt wrong. The same way you know someone's been in your room even before spotting anything out of place. My name is Zara, and I've spent the last 4 years of my life working toward one goal, getting into Sterling Med. My 4.0 GPA, perfect MCAT score, and countless volunteer hours should have at least earned me an interview. Instead, I was staring at a vague message about my application being lost in processing. "Sweetheart?" My dad's voice carried from downstairs. "Everything okay up there?" I quickly minimized the email window. "Yeah, Dad. Just checking some stuff. Come down when you're done. Your mother made lasagna." The family tablet sat on my desk, its screen dark. Earlier that week, I'd caught Dad hastily closing tabs when I walked in. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now, dinner was quiet save for the scraping of forks against plates. Mum kept shooting me concerned glances while Dad cleared his throat repeatedly, his tell when he's about to deliver prepared speech. "So," he finally said, "about medical school." I pushed a piece of lasagna around my plate. "What about it?" "Your mother and I have been talking." He reached for my hand across the table. "Maybe this is a sign. You could take a gap year, help me with the business. The commute to state medical is much more reasonable." I haven't heard back from state yet, I interrupted. Mum jumped in, her voice gentle. Honey, we just want what's best for you. Being close to family during medical school, it matters more than you think. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. They'd been pushing the stay close to home narrative since I first mentioned Sterling. 4 states away was too far for their only daughter. Later that night, after they'd gone to bed, I opened my private email account, the one they didn't know about. I scrolled through weeks of messages until I found it. The original interview invitation from Sterling, dated 3 weeks ago. My hands shook as I clicked. The email was there, but marked as deleted. I hadn't deleted it. Hey, you up? I texted Ren, my best friend since high school. The response came immediately. Always. What's wrong? Remember that Sterling interview I was supposed to have? Yeah. Next Tuesday, right? My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone except my parents about that date. Can you come over tomorrow? Bring your laptop. I need your help with something. Sounds serious. Should I be worried? I stared at the rejection email, then at my bedroom door, behind which my parents slept peacefully. Not yet, I typed, but someone should be. The next morning, Dad was extra cheerful at breakfast. I've been thinking about your gap year, he said, buttering his toast. We could convert the garage into your office space. Give you some real business experience before... Before what, Dad? He paused, knife hovering over his bread. Before whatever comes next, Princess. The world's full of opportunities. Mum touched my shoulder as she passed. We just want you to be happy, sweetie. I forced a smile, remembering the deleted interview email. I know, Mum. You always do what's best for me. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. As I headed upstairs, I heard them talking in low voices. My father's laugh carried up the stairs, the same laugh he used when closing deals at work. I pulled out my phone and dialed Sterling's admissions office before I could lose my nerve. Sterling University School of Medicine. This is Dr. Murphy speaking. Hi, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My name is Zara Robinson. I'm calling about my application status. Papers shuffled on the other end. Ah, yes, Miss Robinson. We received a call last week cancelling your interview slot. The caller identified herself as you. The room seemed to tilt sideways. I never called to cancel. Silence stretched between us. When Dr. Murphy spoke again, her voice was different, careful. Ms. Robinson, are you in a safe situation to speak freely right now? I looked at my closed bedroom door, thinking of the deleted email, my father's suspicious behaviour with the tablet, the convenient timing of it all. No, I whispered. I don't think I am. Dr. Murphy's typing echoed through the phone. I'm going to send you a secure link to reschedule your interview. Use a private device to access it. And Zara? Yes? Whatever's happening, document everything. I ended the call and sat on my bed, staring at the family photo on my nightstand. My parents' smiling faces looked back at me, and for the first time in my life, I wondered if I'd ever really known them at all. Ren arrived the next afternoon with her laptop and a determined look in her eyes. We set up in my room, door locked, music playing just loud enough to mask our conversation. Show me everything, she said, cracking her knuckles. I pulled up the emails on my phone. Here's the original interview invitation, and here's the rejection. Notice anything weird? She squinted at the screen. The timestamps. The rejection came exactly 3 minutes after your dad asked to borrow your tablet last week. Bingo. Ren's fingers flew across her keyboard. Let's check the IP access logs on your email account. She paused, frowning. Zara, when's the last time you logged in from Henderson Public Library? My heart skipped. I haven't been to the library in months. Well, someone logged into your account from there last Tuesday, right before your interview was cancelled. The pieces clicked. Dad had a business meeting near the library that day. He'd mentioned being early, killing time before his appointment. Can you trace the phone call to Sterling? I asked. Not directly, but... Ren pulled up a website. Your parents' phone records are linked to your family plan, right? And you have access to the account. I logged in, scrolling through the call history. There it was, a 20-minute call to Sterling's admissions office from my mother's cell phone. Got you? I whispered. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, footsteps approached my door. I quickly switched tabs to a random YouTube video as Mom knocked. "Girls, I brought snacks." We let her in. She set down a plate of cookies, hovering awkwardly. "What are you working on?" "Just helping Zara with some computer stuff," Ren said smoothly. "You know me, always the tech geek." Mum smiled, but her eyes darted to our screens. "Well, don't work too hard. Oh, and Zara, your father wants to discuss some business proposals at dinner." After she left, Ren turned to me. "Business proposals? They're trying to rope me into Dad's company. Keep me local." I grabbed my phone. I need to call Sterling again. This time I used Ren's phone and went outside. Dr. Murphy answered on the second ring. "Ms. Robinson, I was hoping you'd call back." "I need to know something," I said. "The person who cancelled my interview, what exactly did they say?" "They claimed to be you, citing family emergency and financial concerns. The caller was quite convincing." She paused. "But now that I'm speaking with you directly, the voice was notably different. Older. My mother's voice spinning lies about her daughter's future. "I'd like to reschedule my interview," I said firmly. "And I need it kept completely confidential. Of course, given the circumstances, we can conduct it virtually. This Friday, 7 a.m? Perfect. Dad would be at his weekly breakfast meeting, Mum at her yoga class." Back in my room, Ren was still digging. "Zara, look at this. Your mum's been researching joint bank accounts and something called Family Business Incorporation. They're trying to tie me down legally," I realized. "Make it impossible to leave. Like they did with your cousin Annabelle?" I froze. "What?" Ren turned her laptop toward me. There was a years-old local news article about a family business dispute. In the photo stood my father and a younger woman I barely recognized, Annabelle, before she cut ties with the family. "She tried to leave the business," Ren read. "They sued her for breach of contract." My phone buzzed. Dad calling. "Princess, dinner in 10. I have exciting news." "Be right down," I answered, my voice honey-sweet. After hanging up, I turned to Ren. "I need you to keep digging. Bank records, emails, phone logs, anything you can find, and..." I hesitated. "Can you find Annabelle's contact info? Already on it?" Ren squeezed my hand. "What's the plan?" I thought about the virtual interview, scheduled behind their backs, about the evidence mounting on Ren's laptop, about years of subtle manipulation disguised as parental love. "First, I'm going to ace that Sterling interview. Then," I managed a cold smile, "I'm going to show them exactly what happens when you try to cage someone who's learned to pick locks." "Zara," Mum called from downstairs. "Your father's waiting." I stood, straightening my shoulders. Time to play the perfect daughter one last time. Ren looked worried. "Be careful." "Oh, I will be," I said, heading for the door. After all, they taught me everything I know about keeping secrets. The next few weeks were an exercise in deception. I smiled through family dinners, nodded at Dad's business plans, and helped Mum with church fundraisers, all while preparing for my secret Sterling interview. "You seem different lately," Mum said one evening as we prepared dinner. "More accepting?" I carefully chopped carrots, keeping my voice light. "Well, you always say everything happens for a reason." "That's right, sweetie." She beamed. "Your father and I were just saying how mature you've become about the whole medical school situation." The knife came down harder than necessary. "Speaking of Dad, he mentioned something about incorporation papers." "Oh yes," Mum brightened. "We're thinking of making you a partner in the business. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Your father's already talked to the lawyers." I recorded the entire conversation on my phone, hidden in my apron pocket. The virtual interview with Sterling came and went. Dr. Murphy's face filled my laptop screen as I sat in Ren's basement, wearing my most professional blouse. "Your application is exceptional," she said, "and given the unusual circumstances, we've expedited your review process." 2 weeks later, the acceptance letter arrived at Ren's house. I held it with trembling hands, reading the words over and over. "We are pleased to offer you admission. We need to keep this safe," Ren said. "Somewhere they'll never look." That night, I pried up the loose floorboard under my bed and placed the letter in a fireproof box, along with copies of all the evidence we'd gathered. Every deleted email, every recorded conversation, every bank document showing their attempts to entangle me financially. Dad was in rare form at dinner, practically glowing as he discussed the future. "I've scheduled a meeting with our accountant next week. Time to make you officially part of the family business." "That's so thoughtful, Dad." I pushed my peas around the plate. "But shouldn't we wait until after tax season?" "Nonsense. Strike while the iron's hot, that's what I always say." He reached for my hand. "Princess, this is everything we've dreamed of. The three of us working together." Mom dabbed her eyes with a napkin. "A real family legacy." I excused myself early, claiming homework. Instead, I called Annabelle's number, which Wren had finally tracked down. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hello? Annabelle, it's Zara, your cousin." Silence then. "Are you okay?" "No," I admitted. "I need to know what happened between you and Dad." She laughed bitterly. "Has he started with the partnership papers yet?" "How did you know?" "Because that's how they trap you. First, it's a family business opportunity. Then it's joint accounts, shared assets, contracts with ridiculous clauses." She took a breath. "It took me 3 years and most of my savings to legally break free." I thought about the incorporation papers Dad kept mentioning. Did they try to stop you from leaving? They tried everything. Walter even froze my account since we were business partners. Thank God I had a secret savings account. I glanced at my own secret account. Started the day after discovering their betrayal. What would you have done differently? Kept better records, built a stronger support system, left sooner? She paused. "Zara, are you planning something?" "Maybe." "Then learn from my mistakes. Don't confront them until you're ready to walk away completely. And when you do, make it count." After hanging up, I heard Mom and Dad talking downstairs. "She's really coming around," Mom said. "I told you, the sterling rejection was a blessing in disguise." Dad's voice was smug. "Sometimes parents know best. Once the business papers are signed next week, she'll have roots here. Real responsibility. Our little girl, all grown up." I pulled out my phone and pressed record, adding their conversation to my growing collection. Then I checked my secret email. Another message from Sterling about housing arrangements. A text from Wren lit up my screen. Miles from bio class got into Sterling too. Want me to feel him out as a potential ally? I thought about the long game ahead, the careful planning needed, the importance of having people in my corner who understood what was at stake. "Yes," I replied. "The more people who know the truth, the harder it will be for them to spin their version later." I slid the floorboard back into place, hiding my acceptance letter and evidence. Soon I'd have to decide when to detonate this bomb I was building. But for now, I had papers to sign, smiles to fake, and parents to fool. After all, they'd taught me well how to play happy families. The annual Robinson family barbecue was always a performance, but this year's show deserved an Oscar. Dad worked the grill like a conductor, orchestrating conversations and directing attention my way at every opportunity. "Everyone," he called out, tapping his glass. "I'd like to make a toast to my daughter." The relatives gathered around, paper plates loaded with potato salad and grilled chicken. I plastered on my best smile. "To Zara, who's shown such wisdom and maturity these past months." He wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "Instead of running off to some distant medical school, she's choosing to stay close to family, to help build our legacy." Aunt Margaret wiped away a tear. "Such a good daughter." "We're so blessed," Mom added, squeezing my hand. I excused myself to get more ice from the garage freezer. As I dug through the frost, a voice behind me made me jump. "Quite the production out there?" I turned to find a woman leaning against the doorframe. Her dark hair was streaked with purple, her eyes sharp and knowing. It took me a moment to recognize her. "Annabelle." She smiled without warmth. "Surprise, cousin. Thought I'd crash the party." "Does Dad know you're here?" "Not yet, but his face when he sees me?" She checked her watch. "Should be right about—" "What are you doing here?" Dad's voice boomed from the garage entrance. "Hello, Uncle Walter." Annabelle straightened. "Lovely party, though your toast was a bit heavy on the manipulation." Dad's face reddened. "You're not welcome here. After what you did to this family? You mean after what I did to your control? She turned to me. Has he shown you the partnership papers yet? That's none of your business, Dad snapped. Actually, I said quietly, he has. Annabelle's eyes met mine. Something passed between us. Understanding, recognition, shared experience. Leave, Dad ordered, before you poison Zara's mind with your lies. Lies? Annabelle laughed, like the lie about my scholarship being rejected, or the lie about my internship application getting lost. My heart stopped. What? Zara, inside, now! Dad's voice left no room for argument, but I stood my ground. What scholarship, Annabelle? Full ride to art school in Paris. She never broke eye contact with Dad. Mysteriously fell through right after Uncle Walter offered me the business partnership. Funny how history repeats itself. Mum appeared in the doorway. Walter? People are asking where you... Oh. She paled, seeing Annabelle. You need to go. I'm going. Annabelle pulled out a business card, handed it to me. When you're ready to hear the whole story, call me. After she left, Dad gripped my shoulders. Princess, don't listen to her. She's bitter, trying to drive a wedge in our family. I know, Dad. I tucked the card into my pocket. Family first, right? He relaxed slightly. That's my girl. Back at the party, I played my role perfectly. Laughed at Uncle's jokes, helped Mum serve dessert, accepted compliments about my mature decisions. But later that night, I called Annabelle. Tell me everything, I said. She did. The same pattern. Intercepted opportunities, guilt trips, financial entanglements. When she finally broke free, they spread rumours that destroyed her local art career. They'll get worse, she warned. The closer you get to leaving, the tighter they'll squeeze. I'm counting on it, I replied. Every squeeze is more evidence. Evidence for what? I thought about my acceptance letter under the floorboards, about Miles from bio class, now my secret ally at Sterling, about Wren's growing digital archive of their manipulation. For when I show everyone exactly who they really are... Annabelle was quiet for a moment. Be careful. Their love might be conditional, but their revenge isn't. After hanging up, I heard Mom crying downstairs. Dad's voice drifted up, soothing but stern. We can't let her near Zara again. We've worked too hard to keep her close. I know, Mom sniffled. But what if she tells her about... She won't. And even if she does, Zara trusts us. We're her parents. I pulled out my phone, pressed stop on the recording. Another piece of evidence for my collection. A text from Miles popped up. Found an apartment near Sterling. 2-bedroom. Need a roommate? I smiled, thinking of Dad's toast about staying close to family, about Mum's tears and Annabelle's warnings. Yes, I typed back, but let's keep that quiet for now. The game was getting dangerous, but I'd learned from Annabelle's mistakes. When I finally made my move, there would be no room for recovery, no space for their version of events. Sometimes the best revenge is simply showing people who they really are. Sweetheart, we need to discuss something important. Mum's voice was honey-sweet as she set down a stack of papers at the kitchen table. It's about your future. I looked up from my coffee, noting Dad's presence beside her. They'd cornered me at breakfast. Classic strategy. What's up? Well, Dad began, sliding the papers forward. With you joining the business, we need to update some financial arrangements. Just standard procedure. I scanned the documents, joint bank accounts, shared credit lines, business liability forms, each page a carefully crafted chain. Why do we need all this? I kept my voice curious, innocent. Protection, Princess. For all of us. Dad pointed to various signature lines. This way, everything's properly structured for tax purposes. Mum touched my hand. We're just looking out for you, honey. I took a deep breath, channeling 4 years of theatre club. Could I take these to read over? Of course, Dad beamed. But try to get them back to me by Friday. The bank's expecting us. Later that day, Wren burst into my room, face flushed. You won't believe what I just heard. What? I was at the coffee shop near your mum's yoga studio. She was on the phone with someone. A lawyer, I think. Wren pulled out her phone, playing a recording. Listen. Mum's voice came through clearly. need everything ironclad before she realizes. No, she doesn't know about the sterling acceptance yet. Walter handled that. Yes, the business incorporation will make it nearly impossible for her to leave without significant penalties. My hands clenched into fists. They're trying to trap me legally before I can tell them about sterling. There's more. Wren pulled up her laptop. I did some digging into your dad's business records. Remember how Annabelle said they spread rumours when she left? Yeah? They didn't just spread rumours. They sued her for breach of contract. The documents you're holding, they're almost identical to what they used against her. A text from Miles lit up my phone. Meeting Dr. Murphy tomorrow about housing. Want me to mention anything? Tell her I'm still coming, I typed back. No matter what. Mom called up the stairs. Zara, could you come help me with something? I found her in the living room, surrounded by photo albums. Look what I found. Your first day of school. She patted the couch beside her. As I sat, she flipped through pages of carefully curated family memories. We've always been so close, she sighed. That's why this business partnership is so perfect, keeping the family together. I noticed a bank envelope on the coffee table, partially hidden under magazines. The corner of a new debit card peeked out, a joint account already set up in my name. Mum, I kept my voice steady. Did you open a bank account for me? She flustered slightly. Oh, just a surprise. Your father thought, with the business. Without asking me first? We're family, sweetheart. Everything we have is shared. She squeezed my hand. Don't you trust us? I forced a smile. Of course I do. That night, I called Annabelle again. They're moving faster than I expected, I told her. Joint accounts, business contracts, liability forms. They're scared, she said. They sense you pulling away. What's your exit strategy? I glanced at my acceptance letter, still hidden under the floorboards. I've got one, but I need your help with something first. Name it. Can you introduce me to your lawyer? The one who handled your case? She laughed. Already done. Check your email. The next morning, Dad cornered me before work. Princess? About those papers? Still reviewing them, I said brightly. Want to understand everything before I sign. His smile tightened. Don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't wait forever. Don't worry, Dad. I hugged him, recording device in my pocket, capturing every word. I know exactly how important this is. After he left, I pulled out my phone and dialed the number Annabelle's lawyer had sent. Hello, a professional voice answered. This is Sandra from Legal Aid. Hi, I said, watching Mum sort through more surprise financial documents in the kitchen. I need help protecting myself from my parents. Tell me everything, Sandra replied. I looked at the joint bank card Mom had tried to hide, thought of the contracts waiting for my signature, remembered Dr. Murphy's concerned face during my interview. It's a long story, I said, but I've got proof of all of it. Sometimes the best defense isn't just documenting the abuse. It's making sure you have witnesses when the truth finally comes out. The sterling acceptance letter slipped from my bag at the worst possible moment, or maybe the perfect one. Mum was walking past my room as it fluttered to the floor, the university letterhead clearly visible. Her gasp made me turn. What's this? Mum, I can explain. She was already reading, her face draining of colour. Accepted? But they rejected you. Your father said... Did he? I kept my voice level. Or did he just tell you that's what happened? She stumbled backward, clutching the letter. Walter! Walter! Dad's heavy footsteps pounded up the stairs. What's wrong? Mum thrust the letter at him. His face went from confused to thunderous as he read. How did you... He looked up, realization dawning. You went behind our backs, like you went behind mine. I pulled out my phone, played the recording of his call to Sterling. Like when you pretended to be me and cancelled my interview. We did that for your own good. His voice rose. You're too young to understand. I understand perfectly. I opened my laptop, showed them the email trails, the phone records, the library login. I understand every single thing you did to keep me here. Mum started crying. Sweetheart, please. We're your parents. We love you. Love? I laughed. Is that what you call sabotaging my future? Opening bank accounts in my name without permission? Trying to trap me with business contracts? Dad stepped forward, his face red. Everything we did was to protect you. No. I stood my ground. Everything you did was to control me, just like you tried to control Annabelle. They both flinched at her name. She told me everything, I continued. The scholarship you ruined, the lawsuit, the rumours, that ungrateful little... Dad stopped himself, trying to regain composure. Princess, you're confused. We can fix this. Tear up that acceptance letter, sign the business papers. Or what? I pulled out more papers, copies of everything I'd gathered. You'll sue me too? Freeze my accounts? Spread rumours about your mentally unstable daughter? Mum reached for me. We would never... Really? I played another recording, her conversation with the lawyer about making it impossible to leave, because it sounds like you already planned to. Dad's mask finally cracked. He snatched at my phone, but I stepped back. Don't bother, I said. Everything's backed up. Wren has copies. Miles at Sterling has copies. Annabelle's lawyer has copies. You've been planning this, he whispered. I learned from the best, Dad. You taught me all about keeping secrets, remember? He slumped against the wall, the fight draining from him. We just wanted to keep you close. Safe. Safe? I gestured to Mum's tear-stained face, his clenched fists. Look at yourselves right now. Is this what safety looks like? Mum tried one last time. The business. The contracts. Are void. I pulled out a letter from Sandra, the legal aid lawyer. I'm 23. You can't force me to sign anything. We're your parents. Dad's voice cracked. Everything we have, everything we built, is yours, I finished. And Sterling is mine. The silence that followed was deafening. Mum sank onto my bed, sobbing. Dad stared at me like he'd never seen me before. When? He finally asked. Classes start next month. I picked up the acceptance letter from where he'd dropped it. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. You can't... I can. I will. I moved toward the door. And if you try to stop me, everything I have, every recording, every document, every manipulative text, goes public. How would your business partners feel about that, Dad? His face went pale. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? After all, I smiled his own deal-closing smile back at him. I'm your daughter. I left them there, surrounded by the evidence of their own betrayal. Mum's sobs followed me down the stairs. Dad's angry shouts echoed through the house, but my hands weren't shaking anymore. My phone buzzed, a text from Mails. Apartment's ready when you are. Then Wren. Just say the word and I'll help you pack. And finally, Annabelle. You did it. You're free. I looked back up the stairs, where my parents' world was crumbling under the weight of their own schemes. Sometimes the worst punishment isn't revenge at all. It's simply holding up a mirror and forcing people to see themselves clearly for the first time. I walked out the front door, letting it slam behind me. It was time to start packing. The morning I left, Dad stood in the driveway, blocking my car. You're making a terrible mistake. Move, Dad. That car is in my name. I smiled, pulled out my phone. Actually, I transferred the title last week. Legal aid was very helpful. His face reddened. You think you thought of everything, don't you? I learned from you. I nodded toward the Uber pulling up. That's my ride. Mum appeared on the porch, still in her robe. Zara, please, we can talk about this. We had years to talk about this. I wheeled my suitcase toward the Uber. You chose to manipulate instead. Don't you dare walk away from us. Dad grabbed my arm. I wouldn't. I looked pointedly at his hand. Annabelle's recording this from across the street. He released me instantly, scanning the houses. Annabelle stepped out from behind a tree, phone raised. Hi, Uncle Walter, she called, still trying to control everyone. The Uber driver looked uncomfortable. Everything okay here? Perfect, I said, loading my bags. My parents were just saying goodbye. Mum started crying, her favourite tactic. We'll tell everyone what you've done, how you've betrayed your family. Go ahead. I pulled out a USB drive. I'll send them this. Every deleted email, every recorded conversation, every forged document. Let them decide who betrayed who. Dad's business mask slipped completely. You ungrateful little... Walter, Mum grabbed his arm. "The neighbours." I got into the Uber. Annabelle slid in beside me, still filming. "You'll regret this," Dad called after us. "When you're alone up there?" "She won't be alone," Annabelle said. "She has real family now." As we drove away, I posted the first part of my story on Reddit. "My parents sabotaged my medical school acceptance. Here's how I got revenge." Within hours, it went viral. By afternoon, Dad's business partners were calling. Mum's church friends were sharing concerned messages. Dr. Murphy from Sterling called to check on me. "We've implemented new protocols," she said. "No more application changes without video verification. Your story? It opened our eyes." The local news picked up the story. A reporter contacted me for details. I directed them to the Reddit post and the growing evidence thread. "Your father's requesting a meeting," Sandra, my lawyer, texted. "Should I respond?" "No," I replied. "Let him sweat." Ren helped me move into the apartment near Sterling. Miles ordered pizza for our first night. "Your post has 10,000 upvotes," he said, scrolling through comments. "People are sharing similar stories." My phone kept buzzing with messages from relatives. Some supportive, some angry, all shocked by the truth. "Did you see?" Annabelle showed me her screen. "Dad's business rating dropped 2 stars. Someone linked your Reddit post in the reviews." I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Then Mum's text arrived. "How could you humiliate us like this? After everything we've sacrificed?" I showed it to Annabelle. She snorted. "Classic. Still making it about them." "Zara," Miles called from the living room, "you might want to see this." Dad had posted a response on Facebook, a carefully worded non-apology about family misunderstandings and parental concern taken too far. The comments were brutal. "Emotional abuse is still abuse," one read. "My parents did the same thing. Lost their retirement controlling me," said another. "Hope your business survives this," posted a local competitor. I closed the app, turned to my new support system. Ren unpacking books, Miles arranging furniture, Annabelle guarding the door like she expected Dad to show up any minute. "You okay?" Ren asked. "Better than okay." I pulled out my Sterling orientation package. "I'm free." My phone buzzed again, a message from Dad's biggest client. "Saw the Reddit post. We need to discuss our contract." Then from Mum. "The church board wants to talk about our volunteer positions." And finally from Sandra. "Their lawyer's requesting a meeting. They're worried about legal exposure." "What do you want to do?" Annabelle asked. I thought about years of manipulation, of opportunities stolen, of love used as a weapon. "Nothing," I said. "The truth is doing all the work for me." We stayed up late, sharing stories and making plans. No more secrets, no more control, no more pretending. Outside, my phone kept buzzing with notifications. Inside, surrounded by people who actually cared, I finally felt the weight lift. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to others. It's what you do for yourself. The white coat ceremony at Sterling felt surreal. Hundreds of families filled the auditorium, cameras flashing, proud parents dabbing tears. I sat between Miles and an empty chair. "They might still come," Miles whispered. I shook my head. "They won't." The last email from my parents had arrived that morning. Walls of text about family loyalty, sprinkled with guilt and thinly veiled threats. I'd archived it without reading past the first line. Dr. Murphy took the stage, adjusting the microphone. "Today, we celebrate not just academic achievement, but personal triumph. Each student here has overcome unique challenges to reach this moment." Her eyes found mine in the crowd. We both knew my story had changed Sterling's admissions policies forever. "Some of you," she continued, "had to fight harder than others for your dream. Your courage inspires us all." The ceremony began. One by one, students walked across the stage, receiving their white coats from faculty members. Parents beamed, siblings cheered. "Zara Robinson," called Dr. Murphy. I stood, heart pounding. The walk to the stage felt endless. "Wait!" a voice called from the back. My stomach dropped. Dad stood in the doorway, Mum beside him. They looked smaller somehow, less intimidating than I remembered. Security moved toward them, but Dr. Murphy held up her hand. "Ms. Robinson, it's your choice." The audience whispered. Phones recorded. My Reddit story had made rounds through the medical community. Everyone knew who we were. I straightened my shoulders. Let them stay. They didn't move closer, just watched from the back as Dr. Murphy helped me into my white coat. As I turned to face the audience, another figure slipped in through the side door, Annabelle, grinning and holding up her phone. Smile, cousin. This one's going viral too. After the ceremony, my parents approached cautiously. Security stayed close. You look... Mum's voice cracked. Professional. Thanks. I kept my distance. Dad cleared his throat. Princess, we've been thinking... Don't. I held up my hand. If you're here to apologize, save it. If you're here to manipulate, leave. We're here, Mum said softly, because we finally read your whole Reddit post, all the comments, all those other parents who... She looked down. Who did what we did. We didn't see it, Dad admitted. How much we were hurting you. No, I agreed. You didn't. Your father's business is struggling, Mum added. The church asked us to step back. Everyone knows. The truth? I adjusted my new white coat. That's what happens when masks fall off. Dad stepped forward. Can we start over? No. I met his eyes. But maybe, someday, we can start something new, something honest. How? Mum whispered. First, therapy. Real therapy, not church counselling. Then, if the therapist agrees, we can try family sessions. I glanced at Annabelle, still recording. But no contracts, no conditions, no control. They exchanged looks. The old them would have refused, raged, manipulated. But their public exposure had changed things. Karma had done its work. Okay, Dad said finally. Whatever you need. I need you to leave now. I gestured to where Miles, Wren, and Annabelle waited. My real family's taking me to dinner. They flinched but nodded. As they turned to go, Mum looked back. We do love you, Zara, even if we showed it wrong. I know. I touched my white coat. But sometimes love needs to break before it can heal right. After they left, Annabelle showed me her phone. My parents' departure was already trending. The medical school community celebrating another victory against educational sabotage. Ready for dinner? Miles took my hand. Actually, I pulled out my phone. I need to post one last Reddit update first. Wren peered over my shoulder as I typed. Today, I got my white coat. My parents came, not for control or manipulation, but to witness what happens when their daughter finally breaks free. It's not a happy ending. Those only exist in fairy tales. But it's a true ending? Sometimes that's better? Perfect, Annabelle said. Now, dinner? I'm thinking somewhere expensive. I hear your dad's business can't afford to sue anyone anymore. We laughed, heading out into the evening. Behind us, the empty auditorium still echoed with the day's ceremonies. Ahead, my future waited. Not perfect, not completely healed, but completely mine. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Murphy. Your story helped 3 students this semester already. Sometimes breaking free helps others find their courage too. I smiled, tucking the phone away. The white coat felt right on my shoulders, like armor made of truth and triumph. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your past. It's about building your future.